Big 12 Today with Ari and James. Monday through Friday, 8A to 11A Eastern Time. Your home for all things Big 12.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you.
It is Big 12 Today here on Big 12 Radio. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. We are brought to you, the full-time fan, by our good friends at Modelo. Ari is out today. I'm James Westling. We've got T-Chains, Taman Turner, normally producing behind the scenes. He is in one of the seats today on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. You didn't even acknowledge today is your day.
I'm getting there.
Today, I mean, it's your big day. I mean, it's your birthday. I mean, you know, acknowledge yourself. This is your time. This is your moment.
Today is my birthday, and I turned 41 today.
Ding, ding, ding.
Also, I just told you to turn my level down, and I apologize. I'm going to have you turn it right back up because I can barely hear you or myself. There. Oh, that's much better. Thank you, Taman. That's why he's the best. Anthony Smith is behind the scenes on the Big 12 studio side because we're streaming on the Big 12 Fast Channel, Roku, Amazon Prime, DirecTV, YouTube, and many other avenues. So Ari will rejoin us tomorrow. It is a Three Things Thursday. By the way, my kids may be FaceTiming me in the next 15 minutes. If they do, I'm just going to answer.
Why not?
We'll do it live.
We'll do it live. We're going to do it live.
I'm excited to spend the next 3 hours with this guy, Taman Turner. We are going to put a pause on our Big 12 names to know, impact transfers in the conference. We've got specialists left. We'll do that tomorrow, but there's so much men's basketball stuff to get to today. Obviously, the headline is JT Toppin is out for the year with a torn ACL. Just less than a week after BYU's Richie Saunders loses the rest of his season due to the same injury. A devastating blow, and my heart aches for those in Provo and in Lubbock. Also, where has this been all year for Kansas State? We didn't touch on much of their 20-point win over Baylor yesterday, so we'll touch on that and just where K-State's at in terms of their coaching search. A lot of names are starting to circulate. Kansas State's going to take a big swing at Illinois' Brad Underwood, who has a ton of ties to the K-State program. Probably be a quick phone call. Either he's in or he's out. And if he's out, they'll move on to the next guy. And then nobody does it like the Big 12. UConn got beat last night by Creighton. And that was at UConn?
Yeah, it was. It was at Gamble Pavilion. And Dan Hurley earlier this week called out the fans a little bit saying the lack of energy at Gamble Pavilion. And then they follow that up with a loss at home against Creighton.
Yeah. It's like the big house in football. You know, Michigan holds over 100,000 people at their stadium, but I've got a good friend who's a Michigan alum, and he's been to many, many games, and I've heard this from multiple sources, that you go to a Michigan game, and it just doesn't have the same energy as a Lubbock, Texas, or a Lawrence, Kansas in basketball, or a Provo, Utah, or even Houston. The Fertitta Center is electric. Sometimes those bigger arenas, it's just a different vibe.
You know, I grew up in Connecticut. I went to a lot of UConn games. They have two homes. They have Gamble Pavilion, and they have the XL Center. And I think UConn fans have grown to be very spoiled, and including myself, used to winning over the last 30 years or so. And they've won in different ways. They won a championship as a 4 seed. They won a championship as an 8 seed. So, you know, a lot of the times that does not happen in college basketball. Mm-hmm. So it's happened twice for UConn. And I think UConn fans have said, we'll be all fine. We'll be fine. We're 24-3. Yeah, we might lose the 1 seed, but we'll be fine. You can't have that mentality as a fan. You can't just assume you're going to win.
Right.
But I think that has taken a toll on the fan base, saying that when you go to Gamble Pavilion or the XL Center over in Hartford, that UConn fans they've grown this mentality used to winning. And I was talking about it with Ari with Kansas. Kansas has 75 years of history of winning. UConn does not. And I think UConn fans are adapting to being that fan base, but they're not that fan base. They're not the Kansas. They're not the Iowa States. They're not some of the – I've been watching these Big 12 games, and, you know, whether it's Hilton Magic or Allen Fieldhouse, it's amazing. I wish UConn was like that. I feel like UConn was like that when I was a kid, but I don't feel like that way anymore.
Right. And I love to get your perspective on that, being a Big East guy, a guy that was born and raised in the Northeast, and a lifelong UConn fan. Is the XL Center kind of their NBA-style arena?
Yeah.
Like a little bit bigger, nicer, newer,
Yes,
I'm assuming?
Correct. Yeah, XL Center was built in maybe mid to late 2000s.
Okay.
So it's fairly new.
Kind of like when Villanova plays a lot of their home games at the Sixers
Correct.
arena, because their on-campus arena is really old and smaller, and it's just a totally different environment. But, by the way, the Big 12 was just completely nuts last night. Utah goes on the road and upsets West Virginia. We'll have more on that game with our full Big 12 Wednesday night hoops recap coming up here in about 10 minutes. Kansas goes on the road and really took care of business. I know yesterday was a stand-on-business Wednesday, but Kansas did that down in Stillwater, built a huge lead because Darren Peterson was electrifying in the first half. And then I don't think we saw him at all or much in the second half. We'll have comments from Bill Self. KU won that game 81-69. You're seeing the men's scoreboard on Big 12 Studios. And then Arizona hung on against BYU 75-68. Tremendous fight from the Cougars on the road, even without Richie Saunders. Arizona does get the 7-point win, but Utah, a crushing blow to West Virginia's NCAA tournament resume. They've got a huge game now, West Virginia, on Saturday, because they play at TCU. That could be a bubble game, elimination type scenario. I'm going to be on the play-by-play for that game here in Fort Worth for our friends over at Peacock and NBC and NBC Sports Network. But being a Northeast guy, just your overall impressions of these environments in the Big 12 when you talk about Hilton Magic and Allen Fieldhouse, because I believe, and I didn't grow up in the Northeast, but I've been to that part of the country, and I've called games at Villanova, and I haven't called a game at UConn, but I'm familiar with the area. I've been up there, and it just has always felt like the Big 12 is truly a different league when it comes to these home court environments that are few and far between all across the country, but almost the norm here in the Big 12.
Yeah, I mean, look, Houston hasn't lost at home this year. Iowa State hasn't lost at home this year. Kansas has only lost once at home at Allen Fieldhouse this year. And when you watch these games, I mean, you can hear the electricity through your TV. Whereas I feel like at a UConn, at Villanova, some of these Big East programs, you don't feel that anymore. I feel like you did at one time, and I don't know what has been the change. I can't speak for some of the, the St. John's. They used to call St. John's UConn South because it's, 2 hours away from stores, and UConn fans would go to Queens, go to New York City, and storm up, when they would play St. John's. Madison Square Garden, the Big East tournament, used to be filled with UConn fans, right? That was the Big East I remember growing up. The Big East that I see now, I have no doubt that the fans love going to the games. But I think that, for example, like I said, in UConn's case, I think you have a level of spoiledness that the Big 12 is not, diving into. And for UConn's case in particular, the men and women are both very popular.
Right.
The women have obviously had a lot of success.
Yeah.
And the men have as well. And UConn's the only school where the men and women won the national championship at the same year, not once but twice. They did it in 2004 and they did it in 2014. Mm-hmm. And I think the fans are just like, yeah, we're going to win. We're going to win. The crowd, yeah, that's cool. That's cute. But I don't like that mentality because, again, when I saw what happened at the Hilton Coliseum between Kansas and Iowa State, that was amazing. When Kansas beat Arizona and Bill Self, the emotions and the fans, it looked like a party in there. And that's amazing for a fan. It's amazing. Like I've told Ari, I want to go to Allen Fieldhouse. You have been to Allen Fieldhouse, and I know Kansas State's having not a good year, right?
Right. But
when they did win earlier this year at home, I saw Jerome Tang in the stands, and he's doing that's fun. You don't get that in the Big East.
That's a great point. And Kansas State, they call it the Octagon of Doom. Right now they call it the Octagon of Room because there's not been great numbers during their slide. But the Octagon of Doom is an incredible environment. Allen Fieldhouse, everybody, when you watch a game at Allen Fieldhouse, you walk away saying there's no better environment in all of college basketball. It's better than Cameron Indoor. It seats about 3 times as many people, and it's just as rowdy. And then I would say United Supermarkets Arena. I would say the Marriott Center in Provo, Utah is up there. The Fertitta Center, super underrated. Foster Pavilion down in Waco gets really loud. Even with Baylor's like 3-10 Big 12 record or whatever they are now, they're still at almost full capacity because it's a smaller arena. It's really new. It's almost built like straight upright, and so it's really compact and loud. And I'm with you on that. All right, let's hear from Bill Self, because Kansas goes on the road and they get a win last night, 81-69 over Oklahoma State. KU led 43-29. We'll have more on this game here in about 10 minutes, but here's what Bill Self said about freshman Darren Peterson, who scored 20 of his 23 points in the first half.
Well, we've had it more than a couple of times, and I didn't anticipate that tonight at all. I thought he was good to go, but obviously we only got 18 minutes out of him, and that's disappointing because he could have had a really big night. But one thing about it is it's happened often enough that our guys have learned to play without him, even though that's not the way we want to play. But that's certainly something that we're not unaccustomed to, right now.
So he played 18 minutes, 23 points. And the big takeaway I have from that clip and those comments is there's no why. There's the fact that he played 18 minutes and he scored 23 points. He had 6 threes last night. I mean, he was a walking bucket once again. But there was no explanation as to why he only played 18 minutes. Bill Self said that was unexpected. We thought he'd be able to go the whole way, and he only played less than half of the game.
Well, they listed it as cramping, and here is the issue that I have with this, and this has been an ongoing saga all year, is that Darren Peterson didn't play much in Kansas's last game. And Bill Self said because they wanted to get him ready for Oklahoma State. They were playing Iowa State. They got blown out. Darren Peterson didn't play much. They said the goal was to get him ready for Oklahoma State. He plays Oklahoma State. He plays great. He scored 23 points in 18 minutes. But why are you only playing 18 minutes? Cramping, I get it, but we've talked about it all year. What does this mean for the NCAA tournament? And if you're an NBA team and you're looking at this, of course you're going to take that gamble, but you have to be concerned. Mm-hmm. If where is that competitive drive? And if this is seen in the Big 12 tournament or the NCAA tournament, NBA teams are going to be nervous.
Very much so. And it's been a weird week, not just with what happened last night. And Kansas, I think with what he did in the first half, they didn't really need him the rest of the way. But also, sorry, my phone is going bananas. All the birthday texts are coming in. I think my boys are actually going to FaceTime me here like any second. But with Richie Saunders and the torn ACL, JT Toppin and the torn ACL, like it hasn't been a good week injury-wise in the Big 12. And I went last night and I looked at teams that have been impacted significantly by injuries either right before the NCAA tournament this time of year or in the NCAA tournament that has resulted in an early exit. And there's the proof is in the pudding. Injuries this time of year can be devastating. And for Texas Tech, I think back to when they didn't have JT Toppin last year. Remember, he got ejected early in the game at the Fertitta Center, and they still went on the road and they beat Houston. Beat them in overtime, didn't have their coach, didn't have their best player. They survived. But I'm not sure Texas Tech without JT Toppin this season and what he means to that team can survive without him. And that is just, it is a heart-wrenching situation because that is a team that I had as maybe a dark horse, not just to the Final Four that could have potentially won the whole thing. And he's a guy that could have been in the NBA. He came back to college. He's getting a big fat check this year to play basketball at Texas Tech. He actually still has eligibility. So to speculate, because that's really all we can do right now, on his future, I mean, a torn ACL, it's going to be a year, 11 months, 10 months at best recovery. So does JT Toppin try to rehab and come back to college one more year to prove and to show that he can still play at the level that he played at prior to the injury?
I think he does that. I think that's the smarter thing to do for the simple fact that you need to take care of your body. And an ACL injury is a traumatic injury. It requires surgery and an extensive rehab to what I know about the injury. When Texas Tech shockingly, lost that game to Arizona State, I know JT Toppin got hurt. When Grant McCaslin spoke to the media afterwards, I'm a big believer when watching these pressers to look at body language, and Grant McCaslin looked devastated.
Yes.
It wasn't just what he was saying. He said all the right things, but he just looked devastated. And I can only imagine how the team feels. You get this far. I mean, we are 3 weeks away from the Big 12 tournament. 3 weeks away. And you get this far and you're having a great season. You just beat Arizona, and you're now in this limbo period of what to expect. And James is right now, his kids are FaceTiming him, happy birthday, and that's awesome.
This is my dude. This is Leighton. Hey, buddy, you're on live radio right now. Live radio and live television. Because it's my birthday, and I knew you'd be calling today.
That's awesome.
How old? You know how old I am. Hey, you want to see it? Check it out. Here we go.
There he is.
There's Taman.
Let's zoom in.
Here's
Hello,
the
hello,
studio.
Leighton. How you
There's
doing, buddy?
T-Chains.
Hello.
Leighton's got the Patrick Mahomes perm going on.
Homies.
Right?
I like it. I can dig it.
What's up, buddy? Little stage fright. A little nervous being on live radio, live TV, huh? Well, hey, I'm super excited and super glad that you called today. So why don't you have a great day at school. I love the hoodie that you're rocking today. And maybe you guys can call me later tonight. Okay, Mike is going to talk too. This is Leighton. This is my 7-year-old. Where's Micah? You got to find him.
It's the birthday edition of Big 12 Today.
There he is.
Here on 2
Hey, buddy.
Big 12 Studios.
Hey, you're on live radio and TV right now. Did you know that? Yeah. These guys getting a little quiet with the cameras on.
I like the
There's
hair.
Taman.
I like the hairdo.
Yeah, we got
Love
two
it.
Patrick Mahomes perms going on. Right, buddy? All right, you have a good day at school. I love you. All right, talk to you soon.
Love it.
There you go.
Love it.
Man, those guys clammed up a little bit.
Yeah,
Usually I answer the phone and they're just running around and giggling and have a lot to say, but today they were pretty quiet.
They're like, it's a little early, and they said it's your day. They wanted you to do the talk.
That's it. All right, so we will take a break. Coming up next, a full Big 12 Wednesday night hoops recap. Kansas at Oklahoma State. Arizona takes down BYU, and Tucson and Utah. The Utes pick up their second Big 12 win. They go on the road, and they stun West Virginia last night in Morgantown. You'll hear from all the coaches. That's coming up around the corner. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. Watched on Big 12 Studios. Powered by Modelo.
To shoot. Got to get it up. Traore fading away at the horn, and he connects.
Man, the whole bench is yelling.
Knocked away. Jenkins with a good spark today for West Virginia. Open look for Huff. He connects.
By Utah to put Keanu Dawes on him. Got to drive him.
He does. Gets into the lane, slithers by and scores. Alex Jensen calls a timeout with the deficit trimmed to 9. Brown tipped away. Turnover. Here comes West Virginia. Huff catch and shoot. Short. Offensive rebound to flush for more. My goodness. intercepted, and a silencer on the Traore flush. Eagle staff, good pass, and a hammer for Brennan Lorient.
That empty side ball screen action that they've run on the reversal has paid huge dividends here in the second half.
A chance to put an end to that tonight. Just 1-11 in the Big 12 this year. Brown with the finish on the reverse. That was pretty. 10 seconds, down 5. West Virginia needs something, and they need it quick. Jenkins all the way to the basket, lays it in. One possession game again with 5.5 to go, and Ross Hodge takes his final timeout. Jenkins with one final heave at the horn, missed it short, and Utah for the first time in 399 days.
Nicely done. Taman Turner on the controls. Also co-hosting with me today. This is Big 12 Today. He's Taman Turner. I'm James Westling. Heard exclusively on TuneIn. Watched on Big 12 Studios. Today is my birthday. So that's exciting.
How's it feel? 41. Does it feel any different than 40? And my favorite NBA player of all time is Dirk Nowitzki.
Okay.
And he wore number 41. So it is your Dirk Nowitzki year.
I thought you were about to say me and Dirk share the same birthday because that would be exciting.
No, I think his birthday's in June. I only say that because I remember when the Mavs won the finals, and then like a day or two later, they were celebrating Dirk's birthday. It was like perfect coinciding.
Yeah, so birthdays are weird for me because birthdays are like my personal New Year, where I'm not a big New Year's resolution guy, but it seems every year because my birthday is not too far, after New Year's Eve and New Year's Day, being in February. But it's always like kind of a reflection day, I guess, which I know.
I get it. No, I get it.
It's not about cake. It's about self-scouting, all right?
You're looking back on the years, and then you're looking to the years ahead.
Right.
Yeah, I get it.
So that's my reset. I do birthday evaluations. I don't do New Year's resolutions.
So what's your birthday resolution from 41 to 42?
Big evaluation day. Well, I haven't quite got there. It's 7:30 in the morning. Central
you
time.
got time.
Okay,
You got time.
We've got the rest of the day, Taman. But my wife has a lovely day planned of me basically doing nothing. She's
That
going to
sounds
make me a
great.
steak dinner. I'm a huge
Oh.
steak guy.
Okay.
So she's got some fancy steaks.
How do you like it cooked?
Medium.
Okay. I'm the same way. I love
Yeah.
medium.
We go right down the middle. We go with a little medium, a little mid.
That's the perfect way to do it.
Mid state game. All right, so last night in the Big 12, Kansas goes on the road. They beat Oklahoma State by a dozen. Darren Peterson, 18 minutes, 23 points, 6 threes. The dude is remarkable. Arizona takes care of business at home against BYU, but the big shocker, and we can start with this one, Utah on the road takes down West Virginia. This was in Morgantown, where West Virginia was nearly flawless on the season, had just one home loss, had wins over Kansas, among other upper echelon Big 12 teams. This is a quad 2 loss. So when you look at West Virginia's resume, they are now 2-3 in quad 2. They've got the 4 quad 1 wins, but 2-3 in quad 2. This knocked them to 54 in the NCAA net rankings. KenPom, this put West Virginia at number 60. They're now 16-10 overall, and really the when you look at the stats of this game, the big thing that jumped out to me is like West Virginia just couldn't make any shots from the perimeter. Give Utah a ton of credit. Utah led by as many as 11 in the second half of this game in Morgantown, just stunning that home crowd. But West Virginia goes 5 for 23 from the floor. Utah defended at a really high level, probably their best defensive performance of the season, and I think it says a lot because Utah snapped a 15-game road losing streak under first-year head coach Alex Jensen. This is just a step in the right direction for them. And when you've got a first-year head coach and the resources aren't quite there, you look late in the year and you want to see how your guys are playing for their coach. And Utah checks all those boxes.
Yeah, I mean, this game yesterday, Utah, it never felt like West Virginia was going to win. They came back down the stretch, and if I'm not mistaken, I talked about how they turned the ball over on the last possession, that last full possession that they had, with 5.6 seconds left to go. But it never felt like West Virginia was going to win. They were not good offensively, and what made it more shocking was that they played this way at home. They usually play very well in Morgantown, and yesterday they didn't. And credit to Utah. I know Alex Jensen said after the game that he was happy that they got the win. He was still a little concerned about their offensive struggles, but Utah, they showed out yesterday and got a big win. And Kelvin Sampson said a couple of weeks ago that Alex Jensen's the guy to turn this program around, and it's going to take a little bit of time. And getting a win like that in Morgantown, kudos to him.
Utah led the majority of this game. Pulling this up real quick to see if they led. Yeah, Utah led wire to wire. Like, West Virginia never had a lead in this game.
Right.
And the rebounding was all Utes. They out-rebounded West Virginia, which is hard to do in Morgantown, 38-28. They opened the second half on an extended run of 15-5. That gave them a 15-point lead. So let's hear from West Virginia coach Ross Hodge after the game, talking about his team's effort or lack thereof at home.
The world, they've been close. They've been in these situations before, and they've just kind of been on the wrong side of them, even as recently as the Cincinnati game. So, I was fully aware of the challenge we had in front of us. And again, they started the game with force and pace and shot making, and we just didn't match that. And I think Coach obviously has a lot of responsibilities, but the biggest one and one of the biggest primary responsibilities as a head coach is to make sure your team is ready to play. And there's just been too many times that we just haven't quite been ready to play. So I'll take the blame for that. We have a small margin for error, and when you continually put yourself in these positions and dig yourself holes, and some of that is the inconsistency that you're playing with, whether it's individually or collectively, to continue to put yourself in these holes. And again, it's to be commended, I guess, that we continuously fight back and give ourselves chances in this game. But when you dig yourself those type of holes, so many things have to go right. And in the games that we've been able to do that, we were able to kind of get over the hump with a big shot. And then tonight we weren't able to do that.
Yeah, West Virginia made only 7 baskets in the first half. They shot 30% from the floor and had just 21 points. Utah led 31-21 at the break. And I look at, Utah does play with a lot of pace that Ross Hodge, the West Virginia coach, alluded to there. But when West Virginia is not making shots, it is very problematic. And that is kind of their Achilles heel. They can still play really good defensively, but these scoring droughts or these off nights is problematic. Trayson Eaglestaff, who's been really hot or cold, goes 0 for 6 from 3 last night. Hunter Huff goes 4 for 13 from 3 last night. Took 13 threes in that loss to Utah. And West Virginia as a team shot 21% from 3. They were 5 of 23.
Yeah, and Ross Hodge, he talked about digging their own hole. Utah, in a one-possession game with 6 seconds left, Sado Traore, how you pronounce it?
Traore.
Yeah, Traore. He missed both free throws, right? And West Virginia gets a rebound, and then they throw it out of bounds. That's digging your own hole. You cannot do that in a game where you haven't led and you haven't shot well, but you're still given an opportunity. And when you throw the ball away like that, it's actually funny. I was watching that game when it happened. All Ross Hodge did was this. He put his hands up and he just did this. It's like, and then, as I mentioned, he mentioned after the game about digging your own hole. When you shoot bad, you have to take advantage of opportunities when they come about. And that opportunity came about, and West Virginia did not utilize it.
We touched on Kansas. They go on the road. They beat Oklahoma State 81-69. Built a big lead. They were up 37-16. Really, this game was over in the first 10 minutes because Darren Peterson was on fire when he was on the floor. Only played 18 minutes, but he goes 7 for 12, hit 6 threes in this game. I thought the inside play of Bryson Tiller and Flory Badunga once again, the difference for Kansas, they just dominated Oklahoma State on the glass. They out-rebounded the Pokes for the course of the game. And keep in mind, when you out-rebound a team but they're missing so many shots because Oklahoma State shot just 34% from the floor on the night. I mean, that says a lot about KU's front line. Tiller had nearly a triple-double. He had 10 points. He had 11 rebounds. He had 7 assists. He had a couple of blocks. Badunga had 4 blocks. Those two guys down low had 6 blocks between the two of them, and Kansas hit 11 threes. That formula of Kansas, just to me, continues to look like a more and more complete basketball team each and every time they take the floor, and they controlled from start to finish in Stillwater.
Yeah, Kansas really showed their might in a game where Darren Peterson didn't really play a lot of minutes, as we noted. You talked about the great game by Bryson Tiller, Flory Badunga. Trey White, 16 points, played well. Marco Jackson, 14 points. I mean, played well. I mean, Kansas, we know they're a very good team, and Bill Self's done an incredible job, knowing that you don't know if Darren Peterson's going to play the entire game. So, kudos to him. They went into Stillwater, a desperate Oklahoma State team. They're trying to still make the NCAA tournament. But, Kansas, they're a power. And, you can only have so many mistakes against them, even when their best player doesn't play the entire game.
And then finally, late last night in Tucson, Arizona and BYU. This is the second installment of a two-game series. Arizona wins 75-68. Remember, they already won earlier this year back in January in Provo. Arizona looked like Arizona. They out-rebounded BYU by 7 on the glass. A.J. DeBonsa got his. He had 35 points, put on a show, 13 of 28 from the floor. He took 28 shots, and that will be par for the course the rest of the year with Richie Saunders out. I mean, he's going to be attempting 20 or 30 shots per game. Rob Wright had 13 points for BYU, but for Arizona, it was the balance. Karchinkov had 18 points. They got 22 points off the bench from Anthony Del Orso, and they made their threes. They were 9 for 21 from downtown, shot 43% as a club. You're watching the highlights on Big 12 Studios. They had a ton of really clean looks from the outside.
Yeah, Arizona, I'm glad they got this win because obviously they came into this game losing 2 in a row after starting 23-0. And this was the bounce back win that they needed to say, we're going to be fine. They probably knew they were going to be fine, but when you actually play it and you see that you're fine, that does a lot for your confidence. On BYU side, I mean, A.J. DeBonsa was what we expect A.J. DeBonsa to be. He dominated, 35 points, 7 rebounds, 13 for 28 shooting. And as you mentioned, with Richie Saunders being out, we're probably going to see these big game explosions from A.J. DeBonsa. Nothing against BYU. It was a tough, tall task. They lost a close one earlier this year. I think it was 86-83 in Provo. But, going to Tucson and playing Arizona, it was going to be a tall task without Richie Saunders. But Arizona showed why they have been, they showed yesterday why they started the season 23-0.
The depth, man. Anthony Del Orso, he was the difference. He had a career-high 22 points. This was a one-point game with about a minute to go before the half, and then Anthony Del Orso hit a top-of-the-key 3 at the buzzer to give Arizona a 7-point halftime lead. They extended their lead to as many as 16 in the second half with another Del Orso 3 with about 6.5 minutes to go to pull away and hang on against BYU. All right, coming up next here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, we are brought to you, The Full-Time Fan, by Modelo, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. We head out to Lubbock. Chris Level joins us from the Texas Tech Radio Network, the latest on JT Toppin, and where does Texas Tech go from here? That's coming up next here on Big 12 Radio, exclusively on TuneIn and watched on Big 12 Studios.
Get in a position to win another Big 12 regular season title.
First action and limit live ball turnovers. And the other one is, like I said, throwing the first punch. I think they've got to set the tone early, and they've got to gain offensive confidence early in the game and really match up in transition and not give up easy looks in transition.
Nikki Collin, head coach of Baylor's, kept this game in perspective. Bailey mopping for 3.
They can throw so many different looks at you depending on who they have out there on the court, and what a luxury having Snutta Collins coming in off the bench. At times, she's pass first. She wants to facilitate, but when she's got an open seam like she did on that last drive, and the answer from Talia Scott, a huge win. Obviously, this game, massive implications. Hema Nunez coming up with the quick steal. I mean, just the intercepted passes that we're seeing.
Nunez looks for Collins. Collins, tough fall away. Not a problem. Being hounded by Fritz. This time she goes over the screen. That's what Tech wanted to do. Scott, no offensive rebound of the putback. Only 5 points the last 5 games on 1 of 5 shooting for Blackrock before that one. And then they dump down inside Sarah Sonogo.
2003, 2004.
Moppin, got it. Bailey's got 20 in the ball game, which is why my cardiologist told me I had to lose weight.
It's Lent now, no sweets for me.
Yeah. Love no. Malone, offensive rebound, putback. Done with 2/10 of a second left, and that's going to do it.
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you, the full-time fan, by our friends at Modelo. You're watching us on the Big 12 Fast channel. We are now joined by Chris Level as we head out to Lubbock, Texas, fresh off a long road trip. You guys were in Tucson and then Tempe and stayed out there on the West Coast, and then the JT Toppin news breaks yesterday after that devastating injury with about 6.5 minutes to go in the Arizona State game. Chris, good morning. I'm sure it's good to be back home, but a little bit bittersweet with the Toppin news.
Yeah, and first thing, happy 28th birthday. Taman was telling me you turned 28 today, so happy birthday to you.
It's just another anniversary of my 21st is what I say.
Oh, okay. And I see you got your wish. You know, we've all run off Ari on your birthday. So it's like, man, you're winning today, man. No, all kidding aside, happy birthday, man. Appreciate you. Yeah, it was a long road trip. You know, everybody's got these sprinkled in. I think Arizona State actually they're headed to the state of Texas this weekend, and TCU and the Baylor swing. Last year we had to do it with BYU and in Utah, and I got to tell you, I just don't know if it's possible to feel opposite end of the spectrum feelings in a regular season than what this Texas Tech program just endured in that 2-game road trip. I mean, I regular season wise, I just don't know how you could eclipse the high of upsetting the number 1 team in the country at their place, and then you turn right around and you get upset and lose one of the top players in the country in the very next game and on the same trip. Just sports, man. Never a dull moment.
Chris, let me ask you this question. With JT being out, what's the first thing that Grant McCasland has to do to assure his team that they have to, continue to move forward?
Well, you and I were talking before we came on live, and I felt it immediately sitting courtside right there whenever he went down, and there's a shock to the system, and there's the visual of players worried, wondering how bad is this? I mean, he's that good, right? And then now there's going to be the reality of there's a new normal, and the way that they've played all year will immediately change. What does that look like? That's a great question. And there will be new roles and new, but Grant's job is to have a different conversation than we're about to have, in that he's still got to make them believe. He's still got to make them hey, there's some opportunities here for some other folks, and he's got to keep them positive, and all while the realization is, you just know this is tough news, and your ceiling just isn't anywhere near as high. I mean, it would be disrespectful to say anything otherwise, because that would show some disrespect to how just good JT is and has been, and I mean, he just put on a show, taking on Krivas and Awaka there in their building, and just kind of taking it to them there in overtime, so. But yeah, that's the first thing, is he's just got to get his guys to get over this mentally, which is easier said than done, and then it's time to reinvent. We got to come up with a different way that we want to play and attack and guard and all the things, and a new rotation, all that stuff.
So, Chris, you said, you were there courtside, you were on the call on the radio side, and could you sense right away that this was a bad injury? I mean, what was it like right after the game? We heard the tone from Grant McCasland that he kind of knew that, hey, this is not good. What was it like being there in person?
Well, he reacted. JT did. He's a tough kid, man. Okay. He reacted like there was clearly something wrong. The problem is that there wasn't a great visual on the replay of exactly what had happened. It wasn't a non-contact deal like you usually see with an ACL, and you're like, okay, I kind of know what that is. There was almost like he kind of banged knees when he tried to lift off of the floor with Masamba Diop of Arizona State, And so, but you just knew something wasn't right. But you kind of feared the worst. But it just like the video evidence, I guess I should say, was kind of bizarre. But his reaction, because the rule is if a trainer comes out on the floor, you got to come out of the game. So you're kind of everybody's trained. Hey, are they being dramatic? Whatever. Let's give them a chance because as soon as you got to be subbed out. And he immediately said, "Hey, Mike Neal, who's the awesome trainer for Texas Tech men's basketball, needs some help." And that's when you just kind of realized, and they obviously took him backcourt. But it's just, you know who loses here when Richie Saunders and JT Toppin and guys like that get hurt? We all lose. The league loses because these are special players. These are guys that make the league what it is, and it's just the sports fan loses. I just hate it. And yeah, maybe people are looking at Texas Tech now and circling them, going, "Okay, we can get them now." And I get that. You're going to be a bit vulnerable, but it's just yeah. I don't know. I just hate it because I love watching Richie Saunders play. He's an awesome player, plays hard, offensive rebounder, connector. And then JT is just such a massive presence for what Texas Tech had been in the last 2 years, obviously.
Chris, you talk about that presence that JT had. With it now being gone, how do Christian Anderson and Donovan Atwell and LaJuan Watts, how do they adapt their game, and what can we expect from them now that JT won't be on the court?
Yeah, I've had people ask me, "Well, you're just gonna have to shoot a lot more threes and be more perimeter oriented." But see that so much of how you had done that up to this point is JT Toppin.
Mm-hmm.
He's the one that's opening up a lot of those. The one thing that Texas Tech has basically, I guess 2 or 3 players that they need more. They just don't have that many guys. Christian can, Jalen Petty can, LaJuan Watts can, but they don't have many guys that can break you down off the dribble and get into the paint and spray it. But I'm curious to see how you change up what this is going to look like. This is going to create. You need more from everybody. I mean, you're going to have to make up 21 and 10 every game, every single night, But there's certain times when those come that's what made JT special. Give it to me. I will produce. I'll stop this run. I'll extend a run. When he's ripping the ball out of hands, of like Tobe Awaka, he desperately wants to win because Tobe Awaka is like a massive individual that is as tough as they come. But Josiah Mosley is going to, I think, be cast into the limelight here a bit. Obviously, Luke Bamboye is going to get more minutes, and I'm just genuinely curious, like what this looks like, because you can envision, as we're just sitting here, just kind of tossing on hypotheticals, you could kind of keep this thing rolling a bit. Your schedule is not super tough on paper. You've got 3 home games left, 2 road games. Trip to Ames is not going to be pleasant, but the wheels could kind of come off. I don't envision that. Grant's just too good of a leader and all that, but it's a massive hole here. I mean, just call it what it is. Trying to figure out you have one of the highest pick and roll usages in the middle of the floor of anybody in the country, and now how you played 60-70% of the game is now half of it's not there. So what does that look like now? It's a great question.
Chris Level, Texas Tech Radio Network, host of Locked On Red Raiders, joins us here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. JT Toppin out for the year with a torn ACL. Texas Tech coming off a loss against Arizona State, but Texas Tech also has wins over the top 2 teams in the Big 12. They beat Houston, they beat Arizona. So those 2 teams play each other this weekend. Chris, you would know better than anybody what those teams look like up close and personal. Who do you think is the better team, Arizona or Houston right now?
Well, if Koa Pete doesn't play, that's a Houston win, especially at the Fertitta Center. I just think Houston's a bit deeper. I just think Kingston Flemings is kind of starting to turn the corner here and reach another gear. And I just know how it is in that building, that if you as physical as Arizona is, I just think Houston is kind of the standard there. So, and again, this is Houston's league, man, until somebody says otherwise. So I think the Cougs are a bit better from what I've seen, but that Arizona is really good too. Arizona's lack of ability to now, they did it a bunch last night, but up until that point, their lack of perimeter shooting and being able, if they ever get behind or need to take those shots, they just haven't been able to do that much this year. But Delorso was certainly hot last night.
Chris, I want to circle back real quick to JT Toppin. Obviously, an ACL injury is a 10 to 12 month recovery. What do you think will be his future for next season? Is he going to come back? Does he just stay in rehab? And you're looking at a January or February return. What does the future look like right now for JT? I know it's early on in this process, but how would you evaluate that?
It's funny about ACL injuries because there was a time when it was a full year, maybe longer than it. Then it was like, hey, there's guys coming or girls coming back in 6 months and even 4 months, and then it ballooned back up to 6 and then 9 months, and then you'll hear people say, you're really not the same until the second year of your back from that. I think this is Will Hammond is going to be back. He had this happen to him in October. He's going to be back this September.
Wow.
And I think he'll be cleared and good to go. This is much closer to like a 7 to 8 month thing than it is a year in most cases. Everybody is different. Sports are different. But I think what happens here is that this is likely locks JT into coming back to school another year. Probably here. I don't know. I would have told you prior to the injury, I think there was a very, very strong possibility that JT Toppin was going to play here again next year. There's a Drew Timme, Oscar Tshiebwe kind of component there where he's just a really good college player. Maybe it doesn't translate, but I just think he likes it here. He's obviously well taken care of, and he's gotten better and all this stuff. But I think that if you can figure out what all this looks like with finances, with rehab, with timetable, with how can we build the rest of the roster and all that stuff, I can absolutely envision a scenario where he's still here in Lubbock and then he's a hell of a mid-year acquisition next year. But I would probably say that is more of a December possibility than anything based on my knowledge of the situation. Anything is up for debate. But again, what level is he at when he comes back and all those things? But if they can make that work, I'm sure that there's plenty of folks in JT's camp and Texas Tech's camp that would love to try to figure something out here to where he was still a part of this thing next year.
Yeah, and that's exactly that was my thought too, Chris, is that, this I think you said it best, almost locks him in to being back next year. And then that will be extremely exciting for Texas Tech because when you get him back, it's like all the games before that really shouldn't matter in the eyes of the NCAA Tournament Selection Committee, right?
Well, yeah. You mentioned that, and then you mentioned the resume this year. I am very curious what this is going to look like because you've beaten Houston, you've beaten Duke, you've beaten Arizona, you've got 7 quad 1 wins. Do they count that? Is this what they're seeding?
Right.
When your name comes up on the board, or are they only going to count from here going forward, knowing that you've got? I don't know. I don't know that that's fair to Coach McCaslin or to Christian Anderson or anything. I mean, they were part of all of it, right? But the team without JT would be the team playing in the NCAA tournament, and I just go back to what was it? Who did Cincinnati lose that year?
Kenyon Martin.
Kenyon Martin, like right out, and he was like the top player in the country, and they were like a 1 seed, and it was just like, I think it was a Bob Huggins coach team back with Cincinnati, yeah. So this is. You've got more time, but this is the equivalence of the importance of the player. So I don't know. I don't know. But it just the whole thing. There's no winners here in any of this.
No, totally agree. Well said.
Yeah.
Chris Level, Texas Tech Radio Network and host of Locked On Red Raiders. Chris, always enjoy your time. Thank you so much, and we'll talk again soon.
Happy birthday, man. Seriously, appreciate you guys. You guys keep hope alive and enjoy the rest of the week and the weekend.
All right. Thanks, Chris. Appreciate
Chris.
it. All right. Chris Level, always the best. Texas Tech Radio Network, always so willing to hop on with us on short notice, and we are very grateful for that. So coming up next, we will dive into, number one, the stat that defines the historic season in the Big 12. The Big 12 is having a year that no league has had in almost 3 decades. And then Clint Stewart, former Kansas State guard, played at K-State under a bunch of different coaches, including Jim Woolridge and then Bob Huggins. Played from 04 to 08, still very involved with the K-State program. He was also the high school coach of K-State's arguably their best player, or at least second best player, David Castillo. Clint Stewart's going to join us to break down the whole Tang situation here in about 20 minutes. We'll take a break. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you by Modelo, exclusively on TuneIn.
State. And the opening tip controlled by the Cyclones. Bracken's able to knock it down. You mentioned 24 against Arizona. Led the team in scoring in 11 games this season. Now they get it to Audie, who will finish. Now, Iowa State will look to inbound, 15 on the shot clock. Jada Williams shakes her defender and hits the J. Harris going to be knocked away by Brackens. It goes to Washnitz, to the rack.
Position just a couple minutes ago with the basketball, and they came up with an empty possession.
Beatty's three. Good! In the lead at 14. Here's the lob into Crooks. Hare for three. Left it long. Crooks with the offensive putback. And a steal by Brackens. They go inside. Williams able to get the N1. Hare will pick up her third. Here's Beatty. From the block, able to get the field goal. And Harris with the board, and that should be it. So Iowa State will get win number 21 on the season and get their 9th in Big 12 conference play, as they best Arizona State 90-64.
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you, the full-time fan, by Modelo. I'm James Westling. We've got T-Chains, Taman Turner, producing, engineering, co-hosting today here on Big 12 Studios. Ari will be back with us tomorrow, and we will kickstart our Names to Know, Big 12 Impact Transfers segment series. Once again, tomorrow we are looking at specialists, so that'll be kickers, punters, kick returners, punt returners, transfers, names to know here in the Big 12. Modelo fan rule number 54, you trust momentum until it betrays you.
I've had it betray me many times, which is why I drink Modelo.
Momentum is a real thing. And who did we have on during football season? Somebody that was tracking momentum and had a great breakdown of what momentum actually is in sports. And it is a real thing.
Yes, I don't remember who it was, but yes, it's definitely a real thing in the sport, and it's definitely a real thing for us fans to give the team momentum.
All right, also, Taman, off-season optimism is
mandatory.
He's been listening. He is producing as we continue and take a look here at some college football stuff. So The Athletic has put together a piece that is, and I'll get to my basketball stat before the end of this segment. I promise you that, because I cannot wait to drop the Big 12 basketball stat that hasn't happened in any league since 1986. So 4 decades ago, it's the last time that another league did what the Big 12 is doing this year in men's basketball, even with the JT Toppin news, which is a bit of a down note with all the injuries taking place. But The Athletic put together a piece called Portal Pressure. The schools, not just in the Big 12, but nationwide, that need to rely the most on the transfer portal for this offseason and the pressure that comes with it. Like, these teams have to hit, or it could be bad news, not just for the program, but for their respective coaches. And the top of the list from the Big 12 is Colorado. Now, Colorado, I didn't realize how much roster turnover they had until we started to deep dive these names to know portal segments. They went 3-9 last year, another losing season for Colorado after the remarkable year that they had the year before. But they've completely reset their offense. They've got a new offensive coordinator. They bring in the Marion guy from Sacramento State, and he was at UNLV before that. So Julian Lewis is back. He's been courtside. He's all in on Colorado, which I love to see, because he was a kid that I wasn't sure he'd be here for this second season of his tenure. They bring in Danny Scudero, the transfer wide receiver from San Jose State, had 1,300 receiving yards last year. That led all of FBS. They bring in Cam Perry, another receiver who was a 1,000-yard guy at Miami, Ohio last year, 6 touchdowns. They bring in Ernest Campbell. He's a receiver from Sacramento State, 800 yards last year, 8 touchdowns. So they bring in receivers with production. And then they add DeAndre Moore Jr. I think this offense is going to look so different next year in Boulder with a new offensive coordinator. They are going to be very creative. They like those quick twitch slot type receivers. At least they did at Sacramento State and at UNLV under Marion. And then a complete offensive line overhaul. And Jordan Seaton transfers out, but I think they did a really nice job of kind of this strategy shift on the offensive line, where they look for more proven production versus the blue chip guys that hadn't seen the field yet at Georgia or LSU or Alabama or wherever they were a season ago. And then defensively, Colorado's highlighted for all the productive guys they brought in. I had Gideon Lamprin as part of my top 5 linebacker transfers. They bring in defensive backs from New Mexico State and James Madison, guys that were super productive at their last stops. And this piece isn't saying that Dion is on the hot seat. He's not officially on the hot seat. But it's kind of framing Colorado and this season being a major make-or-break year, because back-to-back losing seasons, the formula is not working. So Colorado is they finally bet on production instead of potential, and we'll see if it translates.
Yeah, I mean, based on this article, Colorado is, looking with some experienced guys to kind of revamp their offense. Like you said, they bought in a new offensive coordinator. I think they're going to be more creative and maybe creative in Deion's vision. And they addressed their line, Demetrius Hunter from Houston. I think that's going to help them a lot, experience, right? And on the defensive side, they were not good at all. We talked about it last year. There were games where, what was it, against Utah, against TCU, they gave up 50 points. They were not a good defensive team last year. They were one of the worst in Power 4. And they addressed that because, listen, there's this stereotype about Big 12 schools just being all offense, right? But Deion is a defensive guy, one of the best defensive players of all time, and he wants to mold his team to be a defensive-minded, Colorado team in his vision, and they've addressed that. So I do expect them. Do I expect them to be the greatest defense in the Big 12 this season? No. But do I expect them to see much improvement this coming season? Absolutely.
Mm-hmm. Well, the other school noted, and it is a job-saving class in Waco, Texas, is Baylor. And then I've got a couple others from the Big 12 that I think have had fantastic transfer portal classes that are very Indiana-like in terms of production, and albeit maybe at a lesser level, but guys that produced. But Baylor, remember last year, Baylor only signed 12 or 13 transfers, and almost all of them were on the defensive side of the ball. Well, this year it's a complete overhaul. 30 transfers signed. They are all in. The headliner's the quarterback, DJ Lagway, former 5-star at Florida. Then the offensive line, 6 offensive line transfers, including Asher Hale from South Alabama. He didn't allow a sack all of last year. But the defense last year was the problem. We know that. That's been well established in Waco. They were 122nd in scoring defense. Baylor was 118th in rushing defense. But they bring in Joe Klanderman to be the defensive coordinator. 4 K-State defenders followed Klanderman. 4 guys that you could make the case are returning starters in Waco because they were on the field so much for K-State. And then they added 10 front 7 transfers. So the pressure point in Waco is the defensive turnaround that has to happen. That will ultimately determine Dave Aranda's future. It's not really a rebuild. It's kind of a rescue mission in Waco. But with what they did in the portal, they've got a chance maybe to make a splash this year.
So I want to get to that because, you brought up Dave Aranda, Joe Klanderman, and, last year, obviously, Baylor brought in a new athletic director, Doug McNamee. It seems like they want Dave Aranda to keep his job because it felt like at the end of last season that it felt like he was the quote unquote lame duck. It felt like they were going to part ways, and then the end of the season comes, and it was more of a shock that we found out that Dave Aranda was going to be retained, that he was going to keep his job. Baylor signs all these transfers. DJ Lagway, being the headliner, they're focusing on defense in Joe Klanderman's vision. Let me ask you this. What is the expectation for Baylor this season? And do you think they'll exceed that?
In relation to Dave Aranda being back for 2027?
Correct.
Have to make a bowl game. I think you have to make a bowl game.
Do you think they make that, and do you think they exceed that?
It's hard to say. I think on the surface, based off of last year and what happened and the amount of talent that's no longer there on the offensive side of the ball, I would say no initially. But I do see a path for them to be a major breakthrough type team. There's patterns in the Big 12, and you can use pattern recognition to see that guys that are in their second or third year are usually the ones that make a major step forward. Houston last year, Arizona last year, Kenny Dillingham in year 2. And then they get to a point where they're established enough, and a down year, like I would say Arizona State had last year prior to expectations before the season, is still 8 or 9 wins. I don't see Baylor in that camp. Baylor's been up and down. They've been inconsistent. And then, I look at Kansas State, and I look at Oklahoma State, and I look at Iowa State, and I see them as first-year head coaches who are just trying to lay the foundation for what will be year 2 and year 3. So the year 2 coaches that I have my eye on, I would be more lenient towards like UCF or West Virginia than I would Baylor, because I think Dave Aranda's been there long enough that a total reset this deep into his tenure, it's going to be hard for them to have success. I mean, they are approaching this like he's a first-year head coach versus a 6 or 7 year, however many years it's been, that he's been in Waco.
Okay, yeah. I think that's interesting just because, Baylor, like you said, they're laying the foundation. They've made turns. They've made strides. Last year, their defense was horrendous, and Dave Aranda's a defensive guy. Can Joe Klanderman, turn this defense around to Dave Aranda's vision? And Dave Aranda, it feels like once again he is a lame duck. It's like if they don't make a bowl game, he's gone. And if he makes a bowl game, is he still back? I don't know. I don't know. I mean, you can make the assumption, sure, but if they're going to struggle to make a bowl game, or if this defense is still not very good, I just don't know if he's in a position to succeed.
Mm-hmm. So Colorado and Baylor, portal pressure heading into the 2026 season. Here's what Joey McGuire said about Texas Tech and their football fan base, their reaction to last season as they retool via the portal.
It's incredible. I've had so many letters, notes, emails, whenever I've been out recruiting, running into Red Raiders, and it's really cool because the appreciation that they've shown and just thanking us for the year that we had, it means a lot, because I really want to win. I've said it since I've been here. I really want to win for this fan base. I mean, you have such a passionate fan base. One of our mottos is we sell ours out, we'll sell yours out too. I mean, just look at A&M. They just set a record crowd in softball because they played Texas Tech, and so we have that kind of fan base. So it means so much to me that we were able to win the Big 12, and so many guys, so many people have come up and said, thank you for the season. Now my biggest thing is, man, I appreciate that, but we didn't win the game that we wanted to win and get to continue in the playoffs. And so our big deal right now is try to grow from that. We feel like that we have an opportunity to do it again. And so now if we get the bye, how do we not play bad that day on offense? How do we not play? We played really good on defense, but we don't want it to be the opposite next year. So we're just trying to grow as a coaching staff and as a team to make sure that doesn't happen again.
Joey McGuire on the fan base down in Lubbock. Texas Tech has retooled once again in the portal. It's almost like every offseason, at least the last couple, you just chalk Texas Tech has the best portal class in the Big 12, and it's everybody else behind them.
Yeah. Joey McGuire, what he's established in Lubbock has been amazing. And Joey McGuire said it. They didn't get to their goal last season. But when you look at Texas Tech's defense, they signed on offense Brandon Sorsby from Cincinnati. They are doing everything in their power to become a powerhouse. And you see it, and the excitement is there. Joey McGuire mentioned that fans are happy. And you see a program that's really, really going all in to try to be one of these top dogs. We know they're a top dog in the Big 12. We all know that. But the national media, which likes to down them, they don't want to be in that category. And it was unfortunate what happened, at the Orange Bowl. But Texas Tech looks at it as, hey, as motivation, we're going to get better. We're going to fix this.
Mm-hmm. Well said. He's Taman Turner. I'm James Westling. Coming up next, Clint Stewart, the former Kansas State guard, will join us. He played for Jim Woolridge, and then he played for Bob Huggins to get the latest on the Tang situation. But before that, the stat that defines the historic season in the Big 12. Men's basketball. All right, Arizona, Houston, and Iowa State all started 22-3 or better this year overall. It's the first time that 3 teams from one conference have started 22-3 or better since the 1986-87 Big Ten. Iowa, Purdue, and the eventual national champion Indiana all started 22-3 or better.
The Big 12 is really good. I mean, hey, all that tells me is Indiana, the eventual champion in 86-87, sounds like history is repeating itself.
Exactly.
It sounds like the champion's going to come out of the Big 12.
That's the punchline. One of those three could win the whole thing. All right, Clint Stewart coming up next. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. We are brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo, here exclusively on TuneIn.
Thank you, Brooke. With that, we are ready for the tip in the 6'7" sophomore Clara Silva.
Like to play slow down in the half court. They want to play fast and see if they can get some opportunities to score.
Suarez uses that size, the 6'3" grad senior out of Spain. Boston Bigby down to Suarez. 5 seconds to shoot. Miles had a very quick break, and she is back and dropping daggers. Finds herself fit enough to be a part of this TCU lineup because Coach Campbell is unforgiving in practices. How about that for Miles?
Finish.
And the foul.
Yeah, she's just a special player. And Marta Suarez asked about, have you ever played with someone like Olivia Miles? And she's like, there is no one else like Olivia Miles. So obviously, no. I mean, this is a one-on-one player. And so it's been really fun to see. Also just never seems to be affected by anything, and certainly feels like anytime she has the ball, she can go get you a bucket or go dish it out for someone else to score.
Hunter has help, uses it in the form of an offensive rebound by Clara Bielefeld.
Her average from 5.8 points to over 12 points. That's made her a two-way star.
Second chance effort. Silva sets it up for Suarez.
Yes, maybe TCU starters weren't in as much and they weren't playing as hard, but Houston did much better with making some adjustments here in the second half.
Wire to wire, the Horned Frogs.
Back inside Big 12 today here on Big 12 Radio. You're listening to us exclusively on TuneIn, and you're watching us on Big 12 Studios, the Big 12 Fast Channel. We are powered by Modelo, where off-season optimism is mandatory. Talking college basketball, and we head up to Manhattan, Kansas. Clint Stewart played point guard at Kansas State. He was there from 2004 to 08. He fills in on the K-State ESPN Plus broadcasts and ESPN, the K-State radio network, I should say, in the coaching industry. And Clint, man, this is a real thrill for me because I was at K-State the exact same years that you were there, 04 to 08. You played for 3 different coaches, man. You were with Woolridge, and then you were with Bob Huggins, and then you had 1 year with Frank Martin. So you've been through what this K-State basketball team is kind of going through with Jerome Tang. What's your take on the whole situation? Also, just welcome to the program.
Yeah. Thanks for having me on. Really excited to be here. You know, it's a lot of great memories at Kansas State. As you mentioned, had 3 different coaches and kind of going through the coaching change. And, you know, as a player, it's obviously a tough time. You know, I mean, just, you know, even though Coach Driscoll has a lot of the same philosophies Coach Tang might have, there's going to be some things that are going to be different, right? Whether that's playing time for a couple guys, whether that's some drills, whether that's offense might change just a little bit. And so they just got to pick it up and learn as they can, as quickly as they can, and, you know, try to continue on, you know, the legacy as they kind of mentioned that, you know, Coach Tang kind of instilled in them, continue that on through the rest of the season. But it's obviously different, you know, but it's great to see the guys come out this last game against Baylor, and they played really well.
Clint, when you are a player and you're going through a coaching change, whether it's expected or unexpected, what's your approach going forward?
Yeah, I think that their approach is, you know, there's 2 different sides you can kind of see. And one is the guys rally together, right? And you kind of rally around like, you know, it's us against the world type of deal, right? Like we lost our coach, you know, it's us against the world. We got to move forward, you know, or you can have guys that say, hey, you know, and let's pack it in, right? And so it's a little bit different, obviously, because of the in-season coaching change. You know, my coaching changes were out of season, kind of after the season. Obviously, Jim Woolridge got let go after my sophomore year. Bob Huggins left after my junior year. And so from there, it was a little bit different of, hey, new coaches coming in. Let's just let's learn what he wants to do, and it's going to be tough. It's going to be hard, you know, but we got to get up to speed quickly, and we got to, you know, try to do everything that he wants us to do so we can go win basketball games. So it's a little bit different out of season, you know, obviously, because you do have the time to kind of reset and really think about, you know, how we're going to approach the next year versus in season where, I mean, you had, you know, 2 or 3 days and you're playing another game, right? And so definitely a different situation for sure.
Well, Clint, you are super connected to the K-State players on this current roster because you were David Castillo's high school coach in Bartlesville, Oklahoma. Former 4-star guard who's in his second year in Manhattan has taken a major step forward as he's logged more minutes. Just, you know, what's your kind of sense of the players and whoever K-State hires to be the next coach? Do you think the players will hear him out to maybe do what you did and stay the course and stay in Manhattan, albeit in a different era with this transfer portal era? Is there a chance some of these guys are back?
Yeah, I definitely think there's a chance, you know, depending on who's hired and what their vision for not only the program, but what their vision is for the individual players, right? And I think that's one of the big things that the players have to kind of understand is, all right, what is my role, right? Going into next year, what do you expect of me? What is my role? And then, you know, if the coach can obviously lay that out, and it's a 2-way street, right? The coach is going to have to want them back as well based upon their play and their character and things as well. But, you know, I think there is a chance that you could see some guys back. As you mentioned, I had the opportunity to coach David Castillo in high school. Great kid, great individual. I'm really happy just to see how he's grown over these first 2 years. You know, I think last year just getting acclimated to Big 12 basketball and college basketball, and then this year really taking a step forward, you know, because one, he learned kind of what Coach Tang wants him to do, right? That's one thing. But then also he just has another year of just experience, right, of being in the Big 12 and like, okay, this is different, right? This isn't high school basketball. I mean, it's night in, night out. You're playing against the top talent, and so it's been nice to see him take a step forward. But like I said, I think there's a chance you can have some guys back, but it really just depends on the new coach they bring in, and then, and like I said, 2-way street. The coach has to want them back as well.
Clint, Matthew Driscoll said the other night that he never expected to be the head coach of Kansas State, and obviously he's been named the interim head coach. I asked a minute ago, what's the player's approach? If you're Matthew Driscoll, what's your approach to this short-term and long-term situation?
Yeah. As you mentioned, he came to Kansas State because of Jerome Tang, and that's his great friend, great buddy. It's family to him, right? And he wanted to come help Jerome Tang win at Kansas State. So that's why he came here. Obviously, he's thrown into a situation he wasn't expected to be in, but one thing I know about Coach Driscoll is he's a hard worker, brings a lot of energy. I think the guys will rally around him. His mindset is he's going to try to carry out what Jerome Tang wanted to do, and that's win at Kansas State, in this short period of time, right? And so if he can get the guys to play the right way, to go out there and compete with all their effort, then hopefully we can end the season the right way, and that means that whether wins or losses, like, hey, we're not getting blown out by 30 at home, right? I mean, we're playing really well, and guys are competing as hard as they can, and then we can deal with the wins and losses at the end of the day. So for him, it's, hey, let's get them to play as hard as they can. Let's represent Kansas State the right way, as the season obviously is winding down here, and then hopefully he can do that.
Talking with Clint Stewart, former K-State guard, played for Jim Woolridge and Bob Huggins. 1 year with Frank Martin from 2004 to 2008, was part of a Kansas State team that ended a long drought of not making the NCAA tournament when K-State got there in 2008 and won a first-round game. Clint was also part of that K-State team that finally took down Kansas 84-75, January 30th, 2008. I want to ask you about that game and some of your memories here in a moment. But before that, Clint, as you dissect Jerome Tang's tenure, where do you think things went wrong for Coach Tang?
Yeah, I think, when you have success, he had a lot of success in that first year, obviously the Elite Eight run. That really puts some tough expectations on the program, and then trying to repeat that success, very quickly is hard. And so I think that, as great as it was, it really put kind of a bullseye on the program and just on him as a coach as well. National Coach of the Year, Elite Eight run, tremendous year for Kansas State. And then trying to repeat that. And maybe there's some situations where, the portal is great. But Kansas State is also always been kind of built on, hardworking guys that you kind of develop and you have them for a couple of years and they stick to the program, and then you can bring in some outside portal guys, one or two here. And unfortunately, we haven't had a lot of guys that we've just retained, at Kansas State here in the last few years. You think about Cam Carter, you think about Ish Masood after that Elite Eight run, right? And he left. And so it's just, I think there's guys that we could have retained that maybe could have helped, just understanding what Coach Tang wants, like his culture and what he wants to help the new guys coming in, which I think really would have helped, overall these last few years. So unfortunately, that didn't happen. And, we got a lot of talent. It just didn't mix together the right way. I think recruiting from the portal, talent has been there, but it's just not the right mix for Kansas State to go win basketball games.
Clint, you noted that, you were on the phone earlier this week with a ton of former K-State players. What was the general message in some of those conversations like?
Yeah, it was just, some thoughts on who might be the next coach and who we kind of like, as possibly the next coach, and then just some thoughts on, as you just mentioned, kind of where it went wrong, and then what kind of happened, and then obviously just talking about, the news that's been going on since then with, kind of the back and forth between, the lawyers and things, and so, we just had some thoughts, and then like I said, the ultimate thought is, we all want Kansas State to be successful, right? And no matter who the coach is, we want Kansas State to obviously win basketball games, and that's the thought. We all love K-State, and you can definitely see that there's a lot of passion, between, all of us, even on, we got together on my show as well and kind of talked it out, and, we all have passion for Kansas State, and we want to see the best for Kansas State.
Clint, you mentioned you talked with guys who could be the next head coach. You talked with your former teammates and whatnot on who could be the next head coach. Who do you think will be the next head coach of Kansas State?
Oh man, that's tough. That's tough. I think there's obviously, several good candidates out there. If you look from an alumni standpoint, if you wanted to stick there first, obviously Brad Underwood's the sexy sell, right? I mean, but Coach Underwood, he's amazing. He has great things going on at Illinois. I'd be surprised if he came back to Kansas State. But there's some other guys out there. We've mentioned Shane Southwell. who has a lot of accolades, who's an assistant at Northwestern right now. Steve Henson is an assistant at Baylor right now. Josh Eilert, who's an assistant at Wichita State right now. Those are some of the names that are alumni. But if you look at kind of coaches that are hot right now, then obviously you look at, SLU's coach, you look at Utah State with Calhoun and those guys, and those are obviously guys that are going to be on the radar. And so hopefully what I hope to see is, multiple guys get some phone calls and some interviews, and then for Kansas State and then and AD Gene Taylor, he goes through that process and picks the right guy he thinks fit to lead us to where we want to go.
Yeah, talking with Clint Stewart. Love the names you dropped there, Clint. All right, let's circle back. 2008, January 30th. Kansas State takes down Kansas 84-75. You played 36 minutes in that game, had 11 points and 5 rebounds, dished out a couple of assists. The fans stormed the court. That was the first time K-State had beaten Kansas in Manhattan in a really long time. That was the Beasley, Walker, Clint Stewart, Jacob Pullen team. Just an incredible season. What do you remember about that game?
Yeah, so I think the number one thing I remember is a sign being held up. You talk about being a long time. There was a fan had a sign that said, "No one beats us 25 times in a row." Right? And so it was like, you can beat us 24 times, but not 25, right? But no, it was just an amazing, amazing night. It was a lot of fun to end the streak. It was ending the streak for us, and losing to Kansas in Manhattan, and and I had a lot of friends that I played with in AAU ball that was on that KU team. One of them, Darnell Jackson. And so it was more than just beating Kansas for me. It was also beating some of the guys I grew up playing against and friends and things of that nature. But amazing night for Kansas State fans, for Coach Martin, obviously for us as players. It was a lot of fun. And for me personally, that was actually the last game. My mom passed away February 5th of that year. That game was January 30th. So about 7 days later, my mom passed away. And so that was the last game that she got to see me play in person as well. So it obviously has a strong tie to me and very dear to my heart that was the last game she was able to see.
My goodness, that's a 30 for 30 right there in Manhattan, Kansas. Clint, that is an incredible story. Well, you were a heck of a player, and now we need you to put on your coaching hat and your recruiting hat, because we need David Castillo back in Manhattan next year. I don't care who the coach is.
I agree. David's he's a tremendous character guy. He's a guy that's always in the gym, first and getting extra shots at night. Just tremendous. Like I said, the step that he's made this year, I expect him to continue to make those steps over the next 2 years. So we got to keep him around.
Well, Clint, we have a lot of K-Staters that watch and listen to this program. So tell us what you're up to. You mentioned you've got a show I see on YouTube, and you're still coaching. So here's your chance to tell us a little bit about Clint Stewart off the floor.
Yeah, so I coached in Bartlesville for 10 years, and like I said, I got a chance to coach David Castillo. Moved to Kansas City recently, about a year and a half ago now, and starting to work with Locked In Affinity. So I'll be working there. Actually, March 2nd be my first day transitioning over there, and then also assistant coach at Olathe West High School, and so still around the basketball game. Have my own show, the Clint Stewart Show. Ran through Go Power Cat, so that's really fun. And I do some stuff with the TBT, as I mentioned. Been coaching the alumni team Purple Rain with TBT, and then the broadcasting stuff as well. So I'm just trying to stay busy, stay around it all. I'm really enjoying my time that I've had here in Kansas City.
Awesome, man. All right, last one, because these questions just keep popping into my head. Is this a top half of the Big 12 job in Manhattan, Kansas? Like, there's a lot of buzz about, K-State had this really expensive roster, and NIL's not a problem in Manhattan when it comes to men's basketball. So how would you evaluate the strength of this opening?
So I think it's definitely a top half. When you combine the NIL money is really important. But then two, when the Octagon of Doom, right? When we are good, it is one of the toughest places to play, right? And the fans really show up. Now, you have to be good and you have to win, right? Fans don't want to come watch, losing basketball or lousy basketball. They want to watch good basketball. But when we have that going, it is, I think, top in the Big 12 with KU, right, as far as home court advantages. And so, when you look at that, and then, you look at, like I said, the NIL money that you can get to obviously get players, it's a little bit different, Manhattan being a smaller town, smaller community, being able to get guys that really love the game of basketball. Like, you have opportunities to hey, there's not a lot to like really go out and do in this town, in the city. Like lock in and let's get better and let's develop, and I think there's an opportunity to really develop guys in Manhattan because of that, and so, but you got to get the right guys in, from a coaching standpoint, I think, it's definitely a good job. And then you got to go and get the right guys that fit kind of the atmosphere, the environment, the town, the culture, so then you can be successful.
Very well said. Awesome stuff, Clint. Man, appreciate your time. Clint Stewart, former Kansas State guard, joining us here on Big 12 today. And we'll have to have you on again, man. This was fantastic.
Yeah, I loved it. And I have to say one thing that we did not mention about the KU K-State game as well is in 2006, that was the last team to beat KU in Lawrence, and I was on that team as well. So hopefully, our guys can get that done. It'll be senior night at KU this year, but if not this year, then hopefully soon. I won't have to say I was the last one to do it.
Man, I remember partying in the streets after K-State pulled that stunner, the Skylar Thomas game.
Yes, that's it. That is it.
Awesome stuff. So you had 2 wins over Kansas. Great note. Clint Stewart joining us here on Big 12 today. Clint, we'll catch up again. Thanks.
All right, appreciate it. Thank you.
Thanks, Clint. Have a good one.
Clint Stewart played guard at Kansas State. He was the PG from 2004 to 2008. He was recruited by Jim Woolridge and then coached by Bob Huggins, and he was on that first Frank Martin team that made the NCAA tournament his last year in Manhattan. He joins us to talk Tang, potential candidates, and the state of K-State men's basketball. Coming up next, let's get it on. Taman has the topics. We've both got the takes. It's Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn.
The Swiss Army knife for the night, she too will be unavailable as midweek basketball in the Big 12 underway.
Play deep into the shot clock right there. When you're patient like that, a lot of times you can find a good look late in the clock.
And here's the handoff to Tess Heel, who's able to strike on the left side.
So you're saying she can pass.
She's been able to distribute that rock. Is here with the left hand, Tess Heel, who has now got 6 points. Savannah Scott hands it off now to here to Eisen. Shot clock under 10, and Eisen able to slash through the defense. At the conclusion of this one, 3 games remaining in the regular season. Are you kidding me? Tess Heel has taken it away. That's Nagodu. And Eisen, hesitation move. Eisen is going to challenge Sekic and get. Give me that rebound. Says Kayana Cox, and Kayana will drive in, and Kayana Cox hits it up off the window. Is this the youngest roster that Kansas State has had since 2018-19 as Spicer off the window? Spicer driving, this time with the left hand, as her turnaround shot fading away as Spicer. In the final 5 seconds, Gina Garcia, who's had one heck of a game here tonight. 10 points, 7 assists. She'll walk it out here for Kansas State. And the Wildcats victorious out on the road here this evening.
Channel Big 12 studios. Ari will rejoin us tomorrow. Ari's been blowing up my phone all morning, by the way, but I know he's not watching the show because he hasn't mentioned the fact that I'm sitting in his exact seat. If he was watching the show, there'd be comments about me being in his seat.
I wonder what he's going to say when he finds out.
It's a whole Inception vibe over here, by the way. Everything's backwards. It's really weird. I don't know which camera to look at. It's a whole thing. But
I like being in your seat. It's a lot. These chairs are a lot more comfortable than my chair.
Yeah.
And I feel relaxed.
Yeah, it's a cozy spot.
Yes, agreed.
Cozy spot. You're a little bit boxed in.
That's
very hard to get up, so I've been bringing you things like your water bottle and anything else you need.
Thank you.
I can't go to the bathroom for you, but if you need some snacks or anything else, I got you covered.
I appreciate
some
it.
creatine.
You're doing stuff for me on your birthday.
A little pre-workout. I'm your guy, okay?
Much appreciated.
I'm a team player. All right, before we play a little Let's Get It On, we just had Clint Stewart, the former K-State guard, on the program. The Big 12 has 3 teams that have started 22-3 or better this season. It's the first time 3 teams from one league has started 22-3 or better since the 1986 season. The Big 10 did it, Iowa, Purdue, and eventual national champion Indiana. So if history repeats itself, the national champ will come from this conference.
I mean, history does repeat itself all the time. I don't see why it wouldn't this time.
Time is a flat circle, Taman.
It is.
All right, let's get it on. You've got the topics. We've got the takes. You're going to answer your own.
Yeah.
We're going to debate, correct?
We are.
I can't just debate myself.
No, you can't.
All right, what do we have?
Let's get it on! All right, first off, I'm going to turn on our little music bed here because we can't play a little Let's Get It On without some music.
Can't do it.
All right, first question that I have, and I'm taking the first one on this one.
Okay.
Who is more important to the success of Iowa State basketball?
Okay.
Is it Taman Lipsey or is it Joshua Jefferson?
And if this is your first time joining us for this segment, we do it every week. One of us takes one side, the other one has to take the other. So a huge advantage here for T-Chains to go first.
It's so obvious. It's my twin brother, Taman Lipsey. I mean, come on. His name is Taman. Let's start off with that. But more importantly, listen, he's averaging 13 points a game, 4 rebounds, 5 assists. He has been there all 4 years. He's a senior. He's graduating. He has been the heart and soul of Iowa State basketball. TJ Otzelberger, their head coach, talked about how important Taman Lipsey is, not just to Iowa State basketball, but to the Iowa State program, the Iowa State community, and that fan base in Ames, Iowa, who plays at Hilton Coliseum. To me, this is a no-brainer. It is obviously Taman Lipsey. No disrespect to Joshua Jefferson, but it's Taman Lipsey.
Okay, so Taman Lipsey, you're saying, is the most important player on Iowa State's roster
this season.
So I make the case that it's Joshua Jefferson, and that would have been my pick either way because he's a walking triple-double. 16 points, 7.5 rebounds per game, 5.5 assists per game. Taman Lipsey and Joshua Jefferson average the same number of assists per game. And I lean Jefferson because if Lipsey's in foul trouble, they have more guards that can fill that void with Killian Torrey. Jamarion Bateman's really been stepping up off the bench in a big way. And then Nate Heisey's maybe been their second or third best player the last 2 games. So for me, the most important player on Iowa State is Joshua Jefferson because there's nobody like him on that team. 6'8", 240 pounds, handles the basketball like a point guard. If he's in foul trouble, Iowa State's in trouble because there's not a Joshua Jefferson. There's not a Lipsey on this roster either, but there are other guys that can do more Lipsey-type things to fill that void than if Joshua Jefferson is out.
I mean, I think Joshua Jefferson is the more talented player, but when I mean who means the most success, the guy who kind of keeps it together, the leader, the captain, to me that is Taman Lipsey. As great as Joshua Jefferson is, Iowa State does not have the success without the heart and soul, the heartbeat of that program, which is Taman Lipsey. Let's get it on!
Love it. Okay, topic number 2.
Topic number 2. I love this one. I wish actually Ari was here for this one. No disrespect. But I love to hear your take. Which home court has been the real MVP this season? Has it been Allen Fieldhouse or has it been the Hilton Coliseum?
Great question. 2 banger environments with high-quality wins in both venues. I lean Ames, Iowa. Hilton Magic is the real MVP. And I say that because, number one, recent bias. They've got back-to-back wins over Kansas and Houston. But also, Iowa State has not been very good on the road. They are significantly better at home, and that's the difference. Kansas has won their games at home, but they go into Stillwater last night and have no problem with Oklahoma State. So you can make the case that Kansas is playing just as good collectively as Iowa State, but when you lose on the road, if you're Iowa State at TCU, and TCU scores the last 12 points, and then you turn around and beat Kansas and Houston at home, no doubt in my mind, the Hilton Magic was a huge part of those victories. Iowa State is the pick for me.
Okay, the answer here is obviously the legendary Allen Fieldhouse. Look, Kansas has lost one game at Allen Fieldhouse this year, and it was to UConn, right? And that was early in the season where Kansas was still trying to figure everything out. The Darren Peterson situation, they hadn't figured it out yet, but they were 1-2 to start Big 12 play, and they were about to go play Iowa State, and they looked like they were going down in the dumps. And then they blew the world out of Iowa State. And that does not happen without Allen Fieldhouse. It just doesn't happen. Then they go, last week they played an Arizona team. Listen, if that game had taken place in Tucson, Kansas wouldn't win that game. They were winning that game at Allen Fieldhouse. Allen Fieldhouse is definitely the MVP. Kansas has had a lot of interesting situations this year. Obviously, the Darren Peterson situation. Bill Self having to manage all that. Can you imagine if they didn't play at Allen Fieldhouse? They would not have the record they have right now. Allen Fieldhouse, as Kevin Durant once said, is the real MVP.
All right, great topic. Topic number 3.
All right, this is a good one.
Yes, it is.
Who has been the better coach this season? Arizona head coach Tommy Lloyd or Houston head coach Kelvin Sampson?
Okay, so this is, first of all, there's no wrong answer here. Both have been phenomenal. Phenomenal. Mm-hmm. So you go first because I could make a case for either of them.
No, fair. I agree with you. Both of them have been good. I am going with Tommy Lloyd.
Okay.
I'm going with Tommy Lloyd with, again, no disrespect to Kelvin Sampson. Kelvin Sampson is phenomenal, one of my favorite coaches. But Tommy Lloyd, they started 23-0. Arizona started 23-0, and we knew Arizona was going to be good this season. Did we have them starting 23-0? I don't think so. I don't think we had anyone in the Big 12 really starting 23-0. Not because they're not good enough. It's because the conference is so good, and we thought they were kind of going to, beat each other up a little bit. And we saw that with Houston. We saw that with Texas Tech. We saw that with Kansas and Iowa State. But Arizona held the fort up until their first loss against Kansas. And we knew eventually that they were going to lose a game. But for Tommy Lloyd, he is, for the longest, it was, how do we beat Arizona? How do we beat Arizona? They don't have a lot of flaws. And Tommy Lloyd, they're physical. They shoot the three well. Toby Awaka has been great. Koa Pete has been great. Braden Burris has been great. Jaden Bradley's been great. You were looking at what is their flaw. And you can still make the argument, what is their flaw? Yeah, they've lost to Texas Tech. Yeah, they lost to Kansas. But Tommy Lloyd has maintained their identity of physical toughness. And I think that has gone a long way for Arizona this season.
Great pick. All right, for me, it's Kelvin Sampson then. So I take Kelvin Sampson because Houston, last I checked, is still atop the Big 12 conference standings for the third year in a row. And they lose Juwan Roberts last season to graduation, who is the all-time winningest player in Houston Cougar basketball history. They lose L.J. Cryer, graduation, NBA. So 2 key starters. They're leaning on freshmen in Kingston Flemings and Chris Sinak, and they're still doing it the Houston way. He's gotten these freshmen to play Houston's brand of basketball, which is to make the easy 6-yard throw instead of bombing it down the field. They lead the nation in fewest turnovers per game, and they play Arizona at home. Now, this is a little bit difficult because we don't know the outcome of that game, but it's at the Fertitta Center where they've won 50 of their last 51. Even coming off the loss to Iowa State, I still think it's Kelvin Sampson, and I still think Houston will win this league. You watch Kelvin Sampson, and he is the ultimate. First of all, you know what you're getting when you sign to play at Houston. But he's at a point in the season where I see a different side of him, where he's taking his team from great to elite. He's making a lot of comparisons to teams that have played in national championships and won national championships because he knows that is what this team is capable of. So for him to wrangle up all these freshmen with all the accolades, top 20 recruiting classes or top 20 recruiting ranks for Flemings and Senac and get them to play his brand, it's been remarkable.
I love it. I love it. By the way, just as a heads up, game of the week this weekend, Arizona at Houston on Saturday at 3 p.m. Eastern, 2 p.m. Central, right here on TuneIn. Last one real quick because I know we're up against the clock.
Are we?
Yeah, we are up against the clock. Last topic. Who will have the deeper turning run? Both teams have had devastating injuries, but they're still going to make the NCAA tournament. Which one has the deeper turning run, Texas Tech or BYU?
Oh, man, this is another great question. For me, I still lean Texas Tech. And I think with BYU, we've seen them without Richie Saunders. We have a slightly larger sample size than we do with Texas Tech. But you can make the case Texas Tech has the worst loss. They just lost at Arizona State after Toppin goes down. But I still lean Texas Tech has the deeper run because of where they will be seeded in the NCAA tournament, which to me, a deep run is to win one game in the NCAA tournament. Making the Sweet 16, I think, is unfortunately going to be very difficult for both. But if Texas Tech's a 5, a 6, even a 7 seed, I think they get out of that first game with a win with Christian Anderson and the depth on the inside or lack thereof. I still think they have enough with Bamboye and Mosley will have to step up. Lawan Watts has shown he's capable of being a 20-10 type guy. So I lean Texas Tech as having the deeper run.
I'm going with BYU because A.J. DeBonta is going to go off. This is going to be his time to shine. NCAA tournament. He's already going off ever since Richie Saunders went out. I think he's going to be enough. He's going to be enough along with Rob Wright. They're going to lead that team to at least one win in the NCAA tournament. Hopefully more for them. They've been a great program. I love Kevin Young, but I just think A.J. DeBonta is enough to at the very least get one win.
They both still have really good guards.
Yes.
And in the NCAA tournament, guards can win you a game, sometimes can win you a bunch of games. All right, coming up next, speaking of JT Toppin, the injury out for the year and the impact on Texas Tech. Is this one of the single most devastating injuries in college athletics history? We'll talk about that next year on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Brought to you, the Full-Time Fan, by Modelo here on TuneIn.
Such serious injuries, so BYU here late in the season is going to try to figure it out and hope we can provide all the info that you need from this big-time matchup. Here's a steal from Del Orso, and he will knock it down to tie the game. What a good start tonight.
A.J. DeBonta was about to get that with both hands, but Karchenkov just tipped it away from him.
Del Orso the drive. The follow for Krivas.
He was All-American in football, basketball, and baseball in high school out of Oregon.
DeBonta kept alive by Ahmed, but here comes Del Orso. Nobody stops the ball. That's not a surprise. The Wildcats have out-rebounded every single opponent this year. Del Orso, it's his night, isn't it? He's got 20.
But you certainly wouldn't turn it down.
Davis drives, flips it up and in, and it's a 5-point game. Into Karchenkov. Ooh, DeBonta almost took it away from him. Burries is open, and Keita smothered it. What a block. Davis cut off on the baseline. 40 seconds to go. A huge possession here and a turnover. Bradley. Del Orso. It is taken away by the Cougars, but the horn sounds. The game is over, and Arizona has snapped its 2-game losing streak.
Back here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios. He's Taman Turner, filling in for Ari Timken. I'm James Westling. Our Big 12 Game of the Week, Saturday, Arizona at Houston. It starts at 3 Eastern Time, 2 Central Time. You can hear the play-by-play right here on Big 12 Radio. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. Modelo fan rules, off-season optimism is mandatory. We've got Grace Zivak coming up, the Kansas swimming and diving standout athlete. She'll join us in about 15 minutes as swimming and diving heads towards the finish line on the Big 12 season. But JT Toppin out the other night. It was officially announced yesterday after we got off the air that it is a torn ACL. The impact that it will have on Texas Tech. Richie Saunders at BYU, torn ACL. JT Toppin, Texas Tech, torn ACL. And the month of March, we're here on February 19th. March isn't just about matchups. Sometimes it's about availability. And we've seen title-level teams historically go from what could be Elite Eight or Final Four locks to first-round exits. And that's where I'm concerned about Texas Tech. I believe, like, if I'm putting together a basketball-only Mount Rushmore of late-season injuries, this one is on there. And that says how much I value JT Toppin and the type of player he is. I would have Kenyon Martin on there, 2000 Cincinnati. They only had one loss all season. He gets hurt in the Conference USA tournament, and Cincinnati doesn't make it out of the first weekend. I would have Joel Embiid, the Kansas center, on my list. He's a guy that got hurt in the Big 12 tournament, and Kansas looked shaky without him, and they lost to Stanford in the second round of the NCAA tournament. And then I'd have Dean Wade, the former Kansas State post player who got hurt in the Big 12 tournament, didn't play in K-State's semifinal round, and then was out in the first round of the NCAA tournament. K-State was a 4 seed that year. They lost in the first round to UC Irvine. And then the other one from this league, Jamal Shed, the Houston point guard that was out for their Sweet 16 game against Duke. They battled, but ultimately Duke ended up upsetting what was a number 1 seed Houston team, and so they didn't make it past the round of 16. This is a devastating blow for Texas Tech, and I think going to have a huge, unfortunate impact on their season. They have shown over the last 2 years that they're capable of winning games without him, but this changes everything for Texas Tech.
Yeah, when it comes to injuries, listen, we all love sports, but, man, sports can really hurt when somebody gets hurt, ironically. But, yes, I agree with you. I think that JT Toppin getting injured at this time of the year after you've played your style of game up to this point, and now you have to completely change it. I mean, this is a revamping of how you have played all season, because that's how impactful JT Toppin has been. And it's crazy because Texas Tech, what's their seed going to be? A 3, a 4, possibly? I don't know what the committee's going to say.
Right. See, and that's the thing. To me, Texas Tech is 0-1. They are 0-1. Their new season starts now.
Yeah. And it's unfortunate because you look at their record and you look at they're in the Big 12. If you don't know anything about it, you're going to be like, what? But then you see this injury and you see the impact that it has. I agree with you. And they're 0-1 against an Arizona State team that, unfortunately, Arizona State's not very good. But, listen, it's to try to bring in optimism. It's the initial shock of a first game when you lose your best player.
Right.
Let's try to take that in, and now let's move on and focus on ending this season and getting starting off the Big 12 tournament on the right footing.
There's been a lot of injuries in college basketball this year. Richie Saunders, as we noted, JT Toppin, Koa Pete didn't play for Arizona last night. He's expected to miss not the rest of the season, but extended time. And there's a couple of things that I looked at. Why are guys getting injured more so now than ever in not just college, but the NBA? And sports medicine data across NCAA programs show that stress reactions, soft tissue strains, overuse injuries have climbed steadily in high-minute players over the last decade. And I wonder if this isn't random, if it is. And then I look at the Darren Peterson situation, and it's like maybe load management isn't a bad thing. I mean, Kansas was up by 20 when he exited the game last night. And there's a clip circulating social media that's gone viral because he buries a three and then he turns to the bench, and it appears that he motions to Bill Self that he wants to come out of the game. But the dude hit 6 threes and had 23 points in 18 minutes, and the game was over.
Some people have looked at Caleb Wilson, JT Toppin now, Richie Saunders now, and they're saying, is Darren Peterson's quote-unquote low management valid? Listen, I don't agree with the whole situation with Peterson. Assuming that I think, excuse me, that I think what it is. But I understand the argument. These guys you have to protect your self-investment for your bigger plans.
Here's what Seth Greenberg said about the impact of JT Toppin's season-ending injury for Texas Tech.
We just got this news. Texas Tech All-American forward JT Toppin tore the ACL in his right knee in last night's upset to Arizona State and will undergo season-ending surgery. The junior is averaging almost 22 points per game for the 13th ranked Red Raiders. Tough news there. So what does this Toppin's loss mean for the Red Raiders?
It's devastating. I mean, this guy could have been Big 12 Player of the Year. He was preseason Player of the Year. You're talking about coming off a game where he had 31, 13 rebounds, 7 offensive rebounds against Arizona. He gives them inside scoring. He's terrific in the short roll. They had no one to replace him. You can't replace in February a JT Toppin. It's going to put so much pressure. They're limited in their front court as it is. Devastating for the team, devastating for this young man. He is a junior. He could come back next season, a potential NBA player. But just this team has played so well all season long. They've overachieved. They play so hard. They're so connected. Christian Anderson and Toppin are a dynamic two-man game together. You feel for him. You feel for the program.
Seth Greenberg on ESPN breaking down JT Toppin's injury. Now on the flip side, Taman, Jalen Rose, Jamal Mashburn, and Bruce Pearl, they're commenting on the Darren Peterson situation. And it'll be interesting to see if the narrative around Peterson maybe starts to shift. I don't think it will, but I think all these injuries, Kansas can point to that and say, yeah, we don't want that with Darren Peterson because he's that impactful when he's on the floor. We're okay playing him 18 to 25 minutes. Here's Rose, Mashburn, and Pearl on Peterson.
You saw it with Coach Self, and I can't wait to hear what these guys say. We know that they can't win it without him. And we know they can't win it if he's only going to play 2 minutes in the second half.
Yeah.
So that's the obvious thing that Coach Self basically came to a realization on the podium today.
I think the interesting part is with this NIL era and the transfer portal, this has become much more transactional than we really thought about. From the standpoint that we can't separate the conversation of them winning the championship and him going to the NBA because it's a transition year for him at the end of the day. If he can go straight from high school and go to the pros, he probably would have done it. At the end, I mean, that's how I see it.
Yeah.
So they really need him to win a championship. But if he's going to get in the NCAA tournament and you're going to load manage that part of it,
wild.
Why even be a part of it at that
Final thought.
It's a business, and I think the kids in the locker room understand he's got a chance to be number one. They want him to be healthy. You know, I think times have changed a little bit. Years ago, there might have been guys in the locker room that would really taken him to task a little bit, like, hey, man, we need you to win this championship. But they all recognize it might be just bigger than that. So
all right.
I'm disappointed, and this is not the last we're going to hear on this story.
This bugs me so much because I agree with everything that Jalen Rose said, that Jamal Mashburn said, and Bruce Pearl said. You have to protect your investment. That's what Darren Peterson's doing. If you're going to load manage, don't play in the NCAA tournament. At the same time, I love what Bruce Pearl said at the end. If you are going to don't play. Where are the leaders? Where are the guys who go up to Darren Peterson and say, you need to play? And I know you want what's best for him, but we're trying to win a national championship. Yes, we want you to be the number one pick. If you play, you're going to be the number one pick. But we want something out of this too. We're a team. Where's that brotherhood that we love about sports, where we go up to a guy and say, hey, are you committed or are you not? You got paid $3 million. Are you committed or are you not? Yes, you got paid $3 million. Yes, you're going to be a great player in the NBA. Nobody denies that. Nobody doubts that. But right now you play for the Kansas Jayhawks. And we're trying to win a championship. We're trying to do something special here. We have the talent. We're one of the best teams in the country. But we need you. In the NCAA tournament, if we go and play, if we make the Sweet 16, Elite 8, Final Four, and we play a team like Houston, play a team like Arizona, play a team like Michigan, play a team like Duke, we're going to need you in these moments. This is one and done. And quite frankly, I don't know if you're committed.
See, I admire the Kansas basketball team and the players like Flory Badunga, like Melvin Council, like Trey White, like Bryson Tiller, Elmarco Jackson, Jamari McDowell, for the way they've handled the entire thing. Because they're at a point in the season where they are playing no different, whether he's on the floor or off the floor. It's almost like he exists when the ball is in his hands, but when the ball is not in his hands, he doesn't to those other guys. And I'm not saying they're not looking for him or anything like that. I'm saying mentally, in terms of their body language, how hard they defend on both ends of the floor. And so those comments, I think it was Coach Pearl that noted that, you know, it's a different era, and in the locker room back in the day, you'd have teammates that would be pushing you to be on the floor, that would be more outspoken, calling you out, for lack of a better term. Nobody on KU has done that. You know, they've all just embraced the fact that this is out of our control. How many minutes he plays, we don't know going into a game. It's not going to impact my game and my play, which is why I think they're just as dangerous without him. Can they win a national championship without him? Probably not. But they are just as dangerous in terms of how much of a problem they can be because Bill Self has got that team so connected.
I agree with you 100% that they are definitely a well put together team, that they can play without him and they can even win without him. My only issue is that in the NCAA tournament, when it's one and done, your margin for error is very, very small. So if Melvin Council or Flory Badunga, if anybody on this Kansas team doesn't have a good game, or they're just an off day, an off night, your margin for error just shrinks and shrinks and shrinks. And that's when you need your best player to step up. And Darren Peterson has shown it. Texas Tech, he didn't play great, but he played great when they needed him to. Kansas in that game struggled offensively, but Darren Peterson came up big when they needed him. In these NCAA tournament games, you have the potential possibility of playing a close game. And if Darren Peterson is not there, who are you going to turn to? I have no doubt Melvin Council can do it, but this is why we paid you $3 million for these moments. Mm-hmm. And that's my concern.
Yeah. All right, coming up next, speaking of Kansas, a standout Kansas swimming and diving champion, Grace Zivak, will join us coming up next as we touch on KU swimming and diving in the Big 12 and what it's like in that Olympic sport before the final whistle. He's Taman, I'm James. This is Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Also watching us on Big 12 Studios.
We have some other good stories about him. He's a really interesting player.
Flory Badunga tracks down the tap ball as we are underway here in Stillwater. Here's Christian Coleman, the UAB transfer. He's like a human pogo stick hovering around the rim. Can't get the putback to fall after the bunny miss. Peterson.
Yeah. How hot? That's a great call, Pete. His numbers are so good. Passing out of double teams is an art, especially for big guys.
Victorious Miller. Melvin Council, so quick off the dribble. Doing a great job to catch up with him, though, is Kanye Clary. He's a speedster as well.
And always to play against the Southpaws.
Here are the Jayhawks shooting 70% on the night. That number just went up. Trey White, who's been struggling recently, knocks down his first shot.
Hey, that's the same with all the big programs. That tournament is not fair in some ways.
How is he that open? I mean, that's the question.
Right. And look, he's passing the ball. He has no problem. He's had it twice there, 2 passes.
Tiller, how about that pass? Second assist for him tonight. Badunga bangs it home. Here comes Anthony Roy. Unselfish play. Clary elevates. Too strong. Long rebound comes out. Coleman controls it, goes inside.
Go towards the middle. He had it wide open in the middle.
Jackson probes. Here's the lob, and there's the finish. We'll be talking with freshman Bryson Tiller from Kansas, who had a terrific night. Tiller finishes with 10 points and 11 rebounds, and Bill Self.
Back here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio, heard exclusively on TuneIn, watched on Big 12 Studios, the Big 12 Fast channel. With Taman Turner, I'm James Westling, and we welcome in Grace Zivak from Kansas Swimming and Diving. Good morning, Grace.
Good morning, guys.
We are super excited to have you on with us because we are going to be rolling out here on the channel, Big 12 Radio, Big 12 Journeys, which are just incredible stories of student athletes that are in this conference. So educate us on your story because it is incredible.
Yeah, for sure. Well, first off, thank you guys so much for having me. This is a really great opportunity. My story kind of starts back in my childhood, I was a competitive gymnast, and I grew up doing gymnastics, 20 hours a week. Obviously wanted to be a collegiate gymnast. At 14, I was hanging out in the backyard with my little brother, and we were in a hammock, and the hammock was attached to two trees, and one of the trees completely uprooted and hit me in the head. Dislocated two vertebrae in my neck, and I was immediately paralyzed from the neck down. So we were home alone. My little brother called 911, called my parents, and took me to Children's Hospital in Washington, D.C. And I had incredible doctors and incredible surgeons. And so I was paralyzed for about 9 days, and it took quite a few months to get back to being fully functioning. But that was the end of my gymnastics career. And about a year later, I was doing flips off a diving board, and someone comes up to me and says, like, hey, have you ever tried diving before? And I was told by my doctors I wasn't allowed to do gymnastics because the pounding on my spine would be too much. So I went and said, hey, can I dive? And they were like, yeah, because you're not hitting a hard surface, which the water can be hard, but it's a little bit easier on your body than gymnastics. So I started diving at 15, and I fell in love with it.
What was the rehab process like? You said that, essentially you were paralyzed for about 9 days before you could kind of start rehabbing. Were the doctors optimistic right away that you'd be able to have full function once again? And I can't imagine everything you went through.
Yeah, well, we didn't know how much I would gain back. When the injury itself happened, my spinal cord was kind of twisted because it was like dislocated. My spinal cord was going like a big zigzag. And I was in the hospital within an hour, and they put me in traction. So they put nails in my head, and they kind of like held my head above my body, which allowed my spine to relocate and the swelling to go down. So if that hadn't happened immediately, I probably would remain paralyzed. So we weren't sure how much I would get back. And after the 9 days, I had a surgery that fused together the two vertebrae and added some screws, some plates, some rods, and that's going to be in there forever. And I was in a rehab facility for about a month, and they would teach me how to get in and out of cars, how to cook. I'd have to walk around with like a backpack with weights on it, pretty much just relearning everyday things. Most of us don't remember learning to walk, so it's really cool to have like a memory learning how to walk again and kind of what that feels like. But yeah.
Grace, your story is really remarkable, and thank you for breaking down the physical rehab of it. Usually when there's an injury of any sort, especially a traumatic one, there's a mental rehabilitation, and you were a teenager, a child. Tell us what the mental rehab was like.
Yeah, I remember first getting to the hospital, and I was still awake, and my parents come up, and I was like, Mom, can I do gymnastics? Like, I just wasn't ready to give that up yet. So I think the biggest part of the mental rehab was that I was still holding on to the idea that I was going to go back to gymnastics and be an athlete again. And obviously it didn't turn out that way, but I'm so incredibly grateful for the way that did turn out, because I wouldn't be here today and at the University of Kansas or a diver if it weren't for this. So I think the biggest part of the mental rehab was getting over the fact that I would no longer be able to do gymnastics.
So are you a psychology major, it says on your KU bio?
Yes, I am.
Was this experience, did this kind of lead you into that field? Because, I mean, Taman asked you about the mental aspect. I mean, swimming and diving is a lot of mental capacity too.
Yes, 100%. I'm planning to go to grad school to get my doctorate of psychology so I can become a sports psychologist and help other athletes through kind of what I went through with identity loft and my parents. And I sat down and kind of like every athlete, we make those pros and cons list. And the only con that so I'm from Washington, D.C., right outside of D.C. The only con that I had was the Midwest. I'm going to be in Kansas. Everything else was, I loved the coach, I loved the facility, loved the academic support, the athletic training, all of it. So it just made the most sense. And yeah.
So with gymnastics as kind of your base, there's a lot of parallels with gymnastics and the body control and the awareness and the spatial precision and everything that goes into gymnastics. What translated immediately when it comes to swimming and diving, and what didn't? And how did you get to this point with all the success you've had?
Oh, that's a good question. I think immediately is body awareness. From a young age, I was upside down. I was flipping and twisting, and that translated really easily into diving. I think the hardest part in diving that isn't in gymnastics is that I think it's more technical. Every little mistake affects the dive significantly. Whereas in gymnastics, I'm kind of running at an object that's not moving. In diving, I'm walking on a board that is moving and that is pushing. So that took a lot to get used to, is that like the apparatus itself moves. And then also the fact that I'm going in on my head, and in gymnastics, that would be really bad if you landed on your head. So
Grace, I think your story is really inspirational, and I love the fact that you're a psychology major. What is the biggest advice you would give to a student athlete coming off of a major injury?
Oh, I would say it's okay to pivot. It's okay we're always taught from like such a young age to be resilient, and especially in like high level athletes, to not give up and to work super hard, even if you're told no. But I would say like it's okay to explore your other options. You're still super talented, and just because one door closes doesn't mean there isn't something out there for you.
That's awesome. What's your favorite thing about swimming and diving?
Oh, my teammates, 100%. I am my coach. We have such a great environment, and you're just like behind the boards joking. Like there's only one person going at a time, so everyone else is kind of just standing there. Like we get to goof off, we get to listen to our music. Yeah, the environment, the pool deck, it's great.
All right, what's on the Kansas swimming and diving playlist then?
Oh, okay. It kind of goes all over. We've been listening to a lot of Olivia Dean recently because she came out with her new album. But sometimes we'll play Drake. Sometimes we'll play like musicals. We'll play like Hamilton during practice. We really go all over. We kind of walk in and we're like, okay, what's the vibe for today? And we'll just play what everyone's feeling.
So Grace is picking the song. What song is Grace picking?
Oh, that's a good question. I feel like I'm stumped.
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah, there's no wrong answer.
And being stumped is totally fine as well.
I feel like I would be the one to put Olivia Dean on. I would probably start playing her album.
Okay, there we have it. Grace Zivak joining us, a senior for the Kansas swimming and diving team here on Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. Last thing for me, Grace, you mentioned that you still have the rods and some of the screws actually in your body still today. Like, can you feel that? Are you aware of it at all times?
Yes, I can feel it. I've been fortunate to have an incredible athletic trainer here. So he works with me all the time. At least once a week I'm in the training room and he's doing like traction and rehab stuff for me just to keep me healthy and maintain everything that's going on in there. But yeah, I do feel it, and you can kind of feel it through my skin too. So
wow, that's wild, man. Incredible stuff. You're an inspiration to so many, and thank you for coming on Big 12 Today and sharing your story, and best of luck the rest of the way.
Thank you so much. Thank you guys so much for having me.
Rock chalk.
Rock chalk.
There we go. That is Grace Zivak, Kansas swimming and diving senior here on Big 12 Today. She'll be part of our upcoming Big 12 journey, which more details on that coming up in the coming weeks here on Big 12 Radio. You're also watching us on Big 12 Studios. He's Taman, I'm James, and we wrap up the show coming up next with the final whistle.
Hammond.
Here are the top plays from this week's Player of the Week. Here are the top plays from this week's Player of the Week.
And you could see 5 for 6 at the end. Talia Scott was the hot hand. She had 16 points, 13 coming in the quarter, and she joined the 1,000-point club. Olivia Miles. And Olivia Miles has been reigning.
Mark Campbell making all these set calls right now.
When you're hot, you're hot. Here's Miles Jess. What was happening in that TCU timeout?
So I just listened to TCU's huddle, and Coach Campbell said,
Watch Suarez just setting that screen and then rolling because of the switch there.
Abraham on the switch. Miles will take it again and make it again. Olivia Miles.
Hey, hot is not even the right word right now for Olivia Miles. She sees the mismatch. She knows Abraham's not, he's not coming out to defend her. She just measures up and
she's got 20 in the quarter. Step back for 23. Unbelievable performance, and look at the smile. Miles, what a show.
Well, she's just measuring it up, and she knows she needs a little bit extra distance, so they'll slide dribble.
5 on the shot clock. Miles with the handle. Miles with the step back. Miles with the three.
Exactly, with 2:20 to go in the second quarter.
Both
Miles.
teams just bringing it on the defensive end. You notice how hard that possession was for Olivia Miles throughout the entire possession. A 9-point ball game. They can use this clock to their advantage.
Miles going to work and getting the hometown roll.
She makes that look so easy.
She attacks range to direct creep.
Concert, and it's also the first ever Kansas City performance for him. It's not halftime. It's not a post-championship or pre-championship show. It's a post-championship street party at Power and Light in KC.
James, we are so there. We are so there.
Should I ask you to power rank your top 5?
My top
DJ Khaled songs?
Ooh. Well,
you just played number 1.
All I do is win, and he has like 3 songs about how he's from the hood. Like, I'm so hood. Welcome to my hood.
He wins. Lean Back, No Brainer, Bugatti back in 2013.
Yes, good one.
Okay,
good one.
How old do you think DJ Khaled is?
He's got to be in his 40s.
Okay.
Like, I'm 34, and he can't be that much older than me. So I'm going to go with 40.
He can't be that much older than you.
Yeah, I mean, like, it's weird how I've gotten older. I used to think, 40s and as a kid, you think 40s and 50s are really old. Then once you're in your 30s, you realize that's not that old. So I'm going to go with 47.
47. Okay,
Yeah.
so he burst onto the scene back in 06. He was born and raised in New Orleans. He's 50.
Oh, well, I wasn't that far off. I said 40s, he's 50, but 47 I don't think was a bad guess.
Yeah, he turned 50 back in November, and actually he really got going back in 1998, but 06, 07's when he had a lot of T-Pain and Snoop Dogg on his tracks and really blew up from there. So this is really cool. It's going to be the ultimate party at KC Live in Power and Light.
We are so there.
And KC Live is just that big open concourse area where all the bars are kind of from the outside. You can't see it, but you walk into Power and Light, and it's just kind of that middle courtyard area, and it will be hopping after the Big 12 tournament. So the Big 12, let's think about what's happened in the last week or two. They announced that there's going to be the ASB glass floor, the video sports floor for the men's and women's basketball tournaments. That's bold. That's different. That's not just another conference tournament like they do in other leagues. And now you're going to have this huge after party. This is phenomenal for the Big 12 in terms of being the most entertaining league in America.
Yeah, and I love how DJ Khaled on his Instagram talked about how he's going to be there and how excited and how pumped he is. I mean, this is really good, I think, for the Big 12. You talk about the glass floor. That is incredible. And I know that they talked about how other leagues have kind of started doing that, and I know the NBA they partnered with that. But man, that's going to be really cool to see. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, it's going to be sweet. All right, this is the final whistle. Our guests today included Grace Zivak, the Kansas swimming and diving standout senior who was paralyzed for 9 days back when she was 14 years old. She grew up doing gymnastics. She was in a hammock, tree fell down, hit her in the head, and she was basically had to have her spinal cord or her vertebrae pieced back together and relearn how to walk and eat and communicate the way that she does now. That is an incredible Big 12 journey. We also were joined by Clint Stewart, the former Kansas State basketball point guard from 04 to 08. He joined us in the 8 o'clock hour. You can catch all of these interviews wherever you get your podcasts, right here on TuneIn On Demand. You can catch them on Spotify, over on Apple Podcasts. And then in hour number 1, a more somber tone from Chris Level, the Texas Tech Radio Network analyst and host of Locked On Red Raiders fresh off the news that JT Toppin is out for the season with a torn ACL. So that's Toppin and Richie Saunders done for the year in the last week. But college basketball has been nutty this week with Utah winning at West Virginia, UConn losing. What was the game last night in the SEC? The double overtime, like 117 to 115 game between, I think, Arkansas and, was it Alabama?
Yes. Darius Acuff, a phenomenal player, had a very good game.
He's big time.
Yeah, he's a star.
I think it was the first time in college basketball history that a team has scored over 110 points, had less than 10 overs, and still lost the game.
He had 49 points.
49?
49 points.
Darren Peterson could have had 50 if he'd played the full, both halves.
I agreed.
Two halves together.
He had played more than 18 minutes. He could have done it in 40 minutes. Yeah, he's that good.
Bill Self didn't really say why he came out of the game. And usually Bill Self post-game. Let's play that audio from Bill Self one more time.
Well, we've had it more than a couple of times, and I didn't anticipate that tonight at all. I thought he was good to go, but obviously we only got 18 minutes out of him, and that's disappointing because he could have had a really big night. But one thing about it is it's happened often enough that our guys have learned to play without him. Even though that's not the way we want to play, but that's certainly something that we're not unaccustomed to, right now.
All right, so that's the first time that I've heard Bill Self sound annoyed, frustrated, however you want to describe it, in his tone. Not at the media for asking the question, not at the narratives that are out there, at Darren Peterson. That was directed towards Darren Peterson. We were surprised that he couldn't go the full allotment of minutes. Usually it sounds like there's been a heads up. Hey, cramps might be a thing. We don't know how he's feeling before the game, and going into a game that he's going to play 20, 25 minutes. Bill Self sounded very frustrated that he only played 18 minutes last night.
I'm so glad you brought that up because you noticed it, I noticed it, the world noticed it. And there's an old saying, it's not what you say, it's how you say it. Bill Self didn't say anything that he hasn't said all year, but it was how he said it. He sounded frustrated, he sounded annoyed, and he sounds like, I'm tired of this. And like you said, it was directed right at Darren Peterson or whoever in his camp. He's basically telling him without saying he's going to play. And remember, what was it, last week? Bill Self defended Darren Peterson very strongly to the media. He went on about a 3-minute, I don't want to say a rant, but he spoke for about 3 minutes, basically in a strong defense of Darren Peterson.
Correct.
And he criticized the media, us, by saying, people come up with their own theories. I'm paraphrasing the exact words, but that was pretty much what he said. Well, this is only adding to these theories. The video where it looked like where he made the three and he turns around and says, I need out. It just adds to that. So Bill Self, look, I don't know what's wrong with Darren Peterson, but I just know I have never seen anything like this in college basketball, ever.
The comp that I just saw on X or Twitter, Darren Peterson, Markelle Fultz.
Ooh. I think that's a fair comparison.
Because you're an NBA guy. Was Markelle Fultz, was he doing some load management stuff his 1 year at Washington? He became the number 1 overall pick in the NBA, and then he battled injuries throughout his entire career.
Yes. I don't think it was to this degree. Like, he actually had injuries, and when he got to the NBA, that persisted. So I don't know. Maybe he was just an injury-prone player, and maybe Darren Peterson is too. We don't. We'll find out as he gets older. But it just, when you make a three-pointer, usually you don't turn around and say, "I need out." That just doesn't really. Markelle Fultz didn't do that. Markelle Fultz didn't hit a three-pointer and turn to his coach and say, "I need out."
And the way he drills that three, turns to Coach Self, and just the demeanor and the body language, Usually players can a big three and they turn around and they address the crowd.
Yeah.
They quiet the crowd. They motion to the crowd. He's motioning to his coach like, hey, just his body language, like, yeah, I could come in here and I could score 50 points per 40. I've got 23 and 18. This game's over. Get me out.
And
I think that's what's rubbing people the wrong way.
Yeah, and to your point, can we play this audio from Jay Williams?
Yeah.
Because Jay Williams talks about what he would do if he were an NBA GM regarding Darren Peterson.
NBA GM, okay.
Correct.
If I were a general manager, I would be extremely concerned about Darren Peterson. I don't question his talent at all. His talent is the number one pick in the draft. But I would take A.J. DeBonsa because I'm not sure about the availability of Darren Peterson. Darren Peterson has played 12 of 24 games this year in college basketball, and it's been everything from an injury, a hamstring injury, cramping with the Theragun on the sideline every single possession, having the flu, not playing through the flu, and also just checking himself out of second halves of games. I've done college game day where all of a sudden he 18 the first half. You're like, damn, this kid is so elite. And all of a sudden the second half, is he playing? What happened? Nobody knows. Nobody wants to talk about it. His talent is unquestionable. It's elite. But it don't feel like he really wants to be there. It doesn't feel, and maybe this is a byproduct, KP, of when kids get paid NIL and they get money up front, right? If that's the way it goes, it's like, well, if I don't want to be here, I get my money up front, then I can check out when I want to check out. That's what this feels like. I don't know if it is that, but damn sure on paper, it looks like that.
Well, that is really good stuff from Jay Williams because it does feel like that. And maybe this is a byproduct of NIL in this new era of college athletics where he's already been paid. He already, whether that contract or that money is front or back loaded, I think is irrelevant. But he doesn't have to prove himself in any way, shape, or form. And he's still averaging 20 points per game. He's averaging 20 points in 26 minutes of the games that he's actually played in.
I have to give a lot of credit to Ari Temkin. Because Ari called this, in December? Like, he was all over this. He was like, something's not right with this situation. And we all kind of said, well, it's early, battling injuries, whatever. But as we've seen, Jay Williams just pointed out, it's always something. The flu, the cramps, the whatever. What's it going to be next week? What's it going to be in the Big 12 tournament? What's it going to be in the NCAA tournament? At what point, and if you're an NBA GM, look at some of the teams in the NBA who are, projected to be a top pick. The Sacramento Kings, the Indiana Pacers, the Washington Wizards, the Dallas Mavericks. You're looking at teams who are looking for that guy, who are looking to, get out and have a talented player for the next 10 years. And you're looking at a guy who's 19 years old who is showing qualities of at least not wanting to be there and dealing with injury issues. Not a good look. And then you look at A.J. DeBonsa. Maybe he's not as good as Darren Peterson, but he is going all in every single game. And even in games where A.J. DeBonsa hasn't played his best, you can definitely tell he's putting everything in there for it. And Kevin Young has bought that up. And Kevin Young, who is a former NBA guy, worked with Kevin Durant, was an assistant coach with the Suns. He has said, or insinuated at least, that, when it comes to A.J. DeBonsa, you have to be all in. And A.J. DeBonsa is all in. Can we confidently and definitely say that about Darren Peterson? I don't think so.
A.J. DeBonsa is averaging 33 minutes per game. His scoring average is up to almost 25 points per game after what he did last night. And he is still shooting over 50% from the floor. The points per 40 minutes, which is a stat that I love to look at, it's how many points an average or a player would average if they were playing a full 40 minutes. A.J. DeBonsa, 29.6 points per game. Darren Peterson, 29.8 points per game. Darren Peterson could be a 25, 30 point per game guy.
Easily.
He would be the nation's leading scorer easily if he was on the floor as many minutes as fans want him to see.
Easily. I mean, I can't remember who said this, but they were talking about Darren Peterson and saying he's the Kobe Bryant. He has Kobe Bryant talent without Kobe Bryant mentality, that Mamba mentality. And listen, I don't want to criticize a 19-year-old kid. I think I like Darren Peterson. He is when I watch him play basketball, I mean, you can't not love his game. He's so smooth with it, flawless. It's funny when he hit those 3-pointers that helped Kansas take the lead against Texas Tech. You knew they were going in. Everyone in the building knew you were going. When you can just take that type of energy and say, I'm going to go down the court and I'm going to do this and I'm going to shoot it and it's going to go in. That's the type of talent that Darren Peterson is. The problem that we have is, and we're just wondering, and I think Jay Williams put it best, it's always something and then nobody wants to talk about it.
Yeah.
So if nobody wants to talk about it, we're going to assume he's not all in.
But my goodness, is he good.
He's very good.
He is the best college basketball player I've ever seen. He looks like he is playing in a rec game every time he takes the floor.
Yeah. He makes it look simple. Like, I'm going to give you a very wild comparison. Whitney Houston. I know. It's like, what does Whitney Houston have to do with basketball? But when Whitney Houston would sing, it looked like she wasn't even trying. But she was so good and so flawless. It looked like she wasn't trying. Darren Peterson is so good. It looks like this is just – it looks like he's not trying. I know he is because he's that good. You have to try to be that good. But he's so good that when you watch him, it's like, oh, this isn't a job for him. This is just like, getting up every day. It's just something you do.
Rolls out of bed and scores 25 a night.
Yeah.
Darren Peterson.
That good.
All right, we'll wrap with that. This is the Big 12 Conference. This is a different league. You're listening to us exclusively on TuneIn, watching us on Big 12 Studios. Taman, great job filling in for Artie, who will be back tomorrow.
Thank you.
I'm James Westling. That is Taman Turner. Anthony Smith behind the scenes on the video side. You're watching us on the Big 12 Fast Channel. Our game of the week this Saturday is Arizona at Houston right here on Big 12 Radio. Starts at 3 Eastern, 2 Central Time. We are powered by Modelo, and we are back tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, 7 o'clock Central, right here live on the channel. This has been Big 12 Today on Big 12 Radio. This is the Big 12. This is a different league. Here are the top plays from this week's Newcomer of the Week.
Darian Mensah from Duke to Miami in the college football world, somewhat similar to that. DiBanza got it from right in transition.
Great job by Robert right there to get his. Now, if you're BYU, I think you've got to get Saunders involved before this half is over. He is as important of a piece for BYU to win games as anybody.
Right now, it's all DiBanza.